Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for your Hong Kong Cavaliers! Bum, 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 bum. Buckaroo Banzai! Reno! Perfect Tommy! Rawhide!
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
You ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, the podcast, which is a celebration of weird movies. I'm Billy Martell, and with me, as always, is
Hong Kong Brad Hefner.
Hong Kong Brad Hefner, and I'm Maynard Billy Martell, I guess. And today we're going to talk about not the most obscure movie that we've talked about.
No, this is a pretty big cult following.
Pretty
this is
big
one of the
cult film.
Big cult 80s films. Not as big as something like what I feel is its sister film, partially because they share a writer, Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, really? They share a writer.
W.D. Richter, who directed and I think co-wrote this.
He had something to do with the plot, yeah.
Yeah, co-wrote Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I only looked at the other movies he directed. I didn't look at the other movies he'd written.
Gotcha.
That's fantastic. That I would definitely consider this a sister film to Big Trouble in Little China. And I should probably say the title at some point. The title of the movie that we're talking about today is The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, which I think is the longest title since Freeway 2 Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Working our way through all of the 80s nerd films. We did Tron a couple weeks ago. Now we're doing Buckaroo Banzai. We'll get through them all eventually.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think... I was just double-checking. W.D. Richter co-wrote Big Trouble.
Okay.
But I don't think... The main writer for this was Mac Roush, I believe.
Yes.
Who originated the character of Buckaroo Banzai.
Absolutely.
But W.D. Richter... There's an overlap.
There is an overlap, yes. But W.D. Richter still had a hand in Big Trouble in Little China. And Big Trouble in Little China, I would definitely...
That's a blind spot of yours.
It is a blind spot of mine, but I would at least from looking at the posters, the posters feel very, very much in the same vein. But yeah, so this is a movie talking about the brief rundown of the plot, spoiler-free. Buckaroo Banzai is an international adventurer. He's
musician,
yes,
scientist, jet car man. Which overlaps with scientist.
Two different kinds of scientists. He's a brain surgeon and a particle physicist. Yes. And he is basically Reed Richardsing his way through life, expanding the bounds of our consciousness while also playing rock shows and being Peter Cullen. I mean, could the guy get any cooler? While he's doing this, he comes across a terrifying discovery that will not only change the way we look at the world in which we live, but will also bring new enemies to bear for the Earth to face. And he has to face them all with his gang, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, that you heard about in the opening. So, before we get into the spoilers, as always, we'll give you our recommendations. Brad, what did you think of Buckaroo Banzai? Would you recommend it? Why or why not?
Now, I watched this movie ages ago.
Yes, we both watched this a long time ago.
When I was first getting into the hunt for weird.
Right.
And as I said, there's a big cult following for this film. Mm-hmm. I was very excited for it. And back then, I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
And today, still not a big fan.
Yeah.
This came out in 1984.
Okay.
Same year as Repo Man.
Interesting.
And what you described in the plot synopsis sounds so fun.
Yes.
And every ingredient of this movie should be fun.
Yes.
Hold on, let me finish these minutes. Oh, good. It's picking up on the mic. Is this what ASMR is? Like a dude who's a rock star and a brain surgeon and a scientist.
Yes.
And he's world-renowned. He has comic books and video games and all this.
Yes.
And he's fighting against crazy aliens that are all named John. And they all have all this organic chips and materials and stuff. And the cast is insane. You get...
Oh my god, this cast is absolutely stacked.
Peter Weller.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum, John Lithgow,
Be Still My Beating Heart,
Clancy Brown, Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad appears in a single scene.
Yes, and I got so excited.
I did too. For whatever reason, this movie lands with a thud for me. I want to enjoy it so bad.
Yeah.
But it just, and we'll just, like, I asked you yesterday, like, hey, help me figure out why I don't like this movie.
Right,
and in finally finishing it, I think I've circled some areas that are problems. So I have a feeling this episode is going to be more of an autopsy than like a wake.
Sure.
For the bloated corpse of Buckaroo Banzai.
I would call this episode an autopsy for sure. I unfortunately agree with you for almost everything that you said. Like I again, just like you, watched this ages ago at the recommendation of my aunt, who the same aunt who first
was your aunt just John Lithgow in a wig. Billy, you gotta watch Buckaroo Banzai.
No, but she introduced me to Doctor Who, so I was like, oh hey, so
and
she
this
and I
does have Doctor Who vibes.
Absolutely, and she and I sort of like, that's our big connection between. This is my Aunt Beth. If you're listening, hi Aunt Beth.
Hi Aunt
Beth. She and I have this sort of connection when it comes to nerd stuff. I was like, great, can't wait to check out what this is. And I watched it, and I did not get it. I just didn't get.
I don't think it's a problem of not getting it. Like, I think it's just, it does.
Well, that's kind of things. I rewatched it for the show. Like, I keep hearing this movie has accolades. People love this.
Oh
movie.
Yeah, huge cult following.
Huge cult following. People absolutely love this movie. Not just my aunt. And I really wanted to like it. I wanted to get into it. It's the same reason why I've tried to watch Stargate SG-1 like 5 times, even though I can't get past the 3rd episode, because there's a huge cult following for that show, and I want to be in on what everyone's enjoying. So I rewatched it for the show. Bringing it onto the show is my way of like, hey, let's try and figure this out. Now that I'm older and I finally understand the brilliance of Black Dynamite, maybe I'll understand this. And I watched it, and on the one hand, I think I get the movie now. I think I get what it's doing in a way that I didn't back in the day. Didn't make me enjoy it any better.
No.
In fact, it almost made me enjoy it less in a couple of instances, because unfortunately, once I got what the movie was trying to do, I then realized what the problem with the movie was.
Gotcha.
And we will be getting into that as we go along. The movie is so unique, and it is
absolutely
strange, unique flower that I almost do recommend it to people.
If you
just to check it out, if you like nerd shit, like this is some primo nerd shit.
This is a sci-fi romp for the ages.
Yeah,
and like we said, huge cult following. Maybe you'll be one that it works for.
Yeah,
but just like. If a man were to break in here right now, and put a gun to my head, and strap me up to a lie detector,
a shock tower,
and say, you better honestly say whether you would recommend Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension, or you will die, because I will shoot you. I think I would say no. I think there's better ways to spend an hour and 47 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No. On the list of movies that I would recommend, this is definitely on the lower tier.
Yeah.
But if your only question to me is, should I watch Buckaroo Banzai or not? I would say, try it.
I would say, once we defeat death, and every man, woman, child, and they, every person has an infinite amount of time. I'm being too harsh on Buckaroo Banzai. It's not that bad. It's certainly worth checking out if you're curious.
Yes.
And just to see John Lithgow's fucking amazing performance.
For those who are familiar with John Lithgow's work, you know that he can be very theatrical at times. Just so you know, have some sort of context for John Lithgow's performance before we get into the spoiler section. John Lithgow, in interviews, has said that he doesn't think he's ever gone over the top, except in Buckaroo Banzai.
He was close in Twilight Zone the movie.
He said, I was close in Twilight Zone the movie, but not quite. And then I made Buckaroo Banzai, and I went fully over the top. So, that's where we are at this point. That's what we're dealing with here. So, let's get into the spoiler section real quick.
Absolutely.
Movie opens with an immediate title card. Once again, the title, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the 8th Dimension.
And this logo and intro card, it's so... it's hard to explain because it's typography.
Yes.
But it's so odd and archaic.
Yes.
Which immediately this movie is going to, and the title evokes this idea of like old sci-fi pulp serials.
Absolutely.
But the movie doesn't really seem to play with that much. Granted,
yeah,
I have seen 0 sci-fi serials.
Yeah, well, I can fill you in a little bit on where I think. Now, I looked up what the writer said his inspiration for the movie was, and he said he wanted to evoke the wild 70s kung fu movies.
Yes.
And as two people here who have watched a lot of 70s kung fu movies at this point and are planning on watching more, no, he didn't.
No. Well, that was the writer's intention.
That was the writer's intention.
The director clearly decided for something much more boring.
Right. Yeah, no, there's no martial arts in this movie.
No, there's not.
All.
There's some action at the end, but I wouldn't even call it good action.
No, not really. It goes back to what we were talking about in the Street Fighter episode, where there's action that we like, where there's like a lot of like physical acting, a lot of fisticuffs,
or the gunplay is so well choreographed,
gun kata, and in this movie, most of the action, with the exception of a couple of scenes, is that sort of 80s commando-style action sequence where there's just a lot of pew, 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 pew. I got you. No, I didn't.
Shoot the gun in one shot.
Yeah.
See a reaction in the other.
Yes, if you're lucky. Most of it is actually very A-team, where you shoot a gun and then you don't see any reaction at all.
Buckaroo Banzai was supposed to be a franchise. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
But I wish there was... For the Buckaroo Banzai TV show, obviously the Hong Kong Cavaliers would be framed for a crime they didn't commit and have to go underground.
Obviously.
Like the A-Team. Yeah. In their double-decker bus with their name on it. They don't change that.
Even though they're wanted by the law, they're still touring.
Yeah.
They gotta make ends meet somehow.
Buckaroo, we can't go on tour. We're going to play the most underground of underground clubs.
The title crawl comes up and tells us that Buckaroo Banzai, his name comes from the fact that he is half American and half Japanese.
Yes.
And as we said at the top, he's a neurosurgeon, martial artist, although we don't get to see that in the movie, particle physicist, and of course, a rock star. Mm-hmm. He has a crew of associates who travel with him on his adventures called the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Yep.
Now, this is where I think the inspiration for this movie in its final form comes from. In the 80s, up until this point, there had already been a resurgence of a lot of 1930s adventure genres.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon had been brought back with Star Wars. The sort of adventure archaeologist / Western had been brought back with Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. I think with this one, Buckaroo Banzai and all that, I think the idea with this one was specifically the pulp hero genre, and the one that this mostly aligns up with is it's much less the Shadow and much more Doc Savage.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Doc Savage at all?
No.
So, just very briefly, the idea of this genre always had one superhumanly intelligent and strong man.
Gotcha.
Doc Savage was invulnerable to harm, absolute genius, just a completely... When people say Superman is hard to relate to, they haven't met Doc Savage yet. But at the same time, he had this big crew full of these colorful characters that would all come from various places around the world or around the U.S. and have wacky accents that would be written into the margins of the stuff. It was the 1930s. It was a less progressive time. The Shadow was also a character like this, even though he was more Batman-y. He also had like this gigantic crew of people who would work with him, that none of which got into the radio show, and so no one remembers them. Aww. Buckaroo Banzai is in that very same vein, where he has this big crew. Nobody in his crew goes by their actual name. They all go by these nicknames that are entirely based around where they come from.
Except for Perfect Tommy. And Rawhide.
Well,
I assume Rawhide is called Rawhide because he likes rough gay sex.
I can only assume. But Perfect Tommy is named technically from where he is, because he's an angel. Oh. Yeah. So I think that's probably...
Tom Angel.
I think that's probably the idea behind this movie, just like, hey, more 30s pulp, more 30s pulp.
Yeah. Mike, here's a question.
Go for it.
Buckaroo is half Japanese.
Yes, he is.
Why is his group the Hong Kong Cavaliers?
Oh my God. I have no idea. And it bothers me so much.
I'm sure there's an in-universe explanation.
Sure.
I don't want to assume that it's just horrible ignorance on the part of anybody.
One could argue that because Buckaroo Banzai, again, like the idea of even the idea of a Japanese person with the surname Banzai,
yes,
is
not
absurd.
Great.
It's absurd and it's very racist, and it's ridiculous. I'm wondering if the idea was like, that way that Alan Moore will write horribly racist stuff into, like, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and it's like, everyone lets him get away with it because it's like, it's a pastiche of something that would be written at the time. I wonder if the idea was he's going to be Buckaroo Banzai and have all this stuff because it's going from a 1930s idea of Asian cultures, but that got lost sometime in the mix at some point.
Maybe.
It's not okay either way. I'm not okay with it either way, but at the same time, like, I'm just trying to get into their headspace a little bit here.
There was in the sequel that never happened.
Yes.
There was going to be an enemy named... The leader of the World Crime League was...
Hanoi Zan, which is also like a takeoff on the name... I'm not going to remember the actual name, but it's very close to the name of the Shadow's arch nemesis in his pulp novels from the time period. So they Yellow Peril villains were all the rage in the 1930s.
So you could be onto something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think it worked.
Either way, it's confusing and off-putting to me just on a gut level.
Yes. Even if it is a sort of thing where, like, oh no, you see, the Hong Kong Cavaliers all met in Hong Kong. That's why. Then just say that.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later. But yes, so Banzai's team.
Now I want a John Woo movie with the Hong Kong Cavaliers. I want Rawhide to just be like, I just want Clancy Brown to be fucking sliding across the floor, dual wielding.
John Woo's Buckaroo Banzai would be something to behold. Although, again, like we talked a little bit about this movie before recording, and I messaged you that the movie that I kept thinking about when watching this was the movie Streets of Fire.
Yes.
Which is a much
more fun 80s movie.
A much more fun 80s movie that also is like a throwback to these pulpy 1930s adventures. It also includes a rock band element, and I just really wanted this to be more like that the entire time.
I wish every movie was more like Streets of Fire. I'm going to watch Drive My Car and spend 3 hours being like, why isn't Willem Dafoe here in nipple-high pleather overalls?
We got to cover that at some point.
Drive My Car, sure.
Exactly.
No, I'll leave Streets of Fire to you.
Okay.
Because that's one you've seen, and that's one you can easily... and we haven't watched it for like a year, so you should be able to rewatch it.
That's true. Okay. But yes, so Banzai's team, I assume that these are all the Hong Kong Cavaliers, but I don't know if some of them are not and some of them are. It's never made entirely clear.
No.
But at least Banzai's people, Buckaroo Banzai's people, are preparing to test an interdimensional jet car.
Yes.
How more tokusatsu concept can you possibly get? Buckaroo Banzai is late to the meeting. He's not there because he's busy doing laser brain surgery with Jeff Goldblum and Clancy Brown.
Yes. There's no one I want... There's no team that I would rather have in an operating room than those three actors. Not even the characters of Rawhide, Jersey, and Buckaroo Banzai. I want those... If I ever need to get my noggin cracked open...
Yes.
You get those three.
Get those three.
They're my A-team.
Oh, man.
I want my blood on their hands. I want Clancy Brown to go home to his wife that night and be like, I don't know why you asked me. But I had to do it.
Given the amount of degrees that Peter Cullen has outside of his acting work, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a secret brain surgeon.
Peter Weller?
Sorry. Yes, Peter Weller. Peter Cullen is the voice of Optimus Prime. I'm sorry. They both have very impressive, deep voices.
Yes, they do.
But yes, Peter Weller is playing Buckaroo Banzai. He's doing this laser surgery. While he's doing it, he offers a character who I can only remember as the name of Jersey, because he's from New Jersey, and they keep calling him New Jersey, and that becomes his nickname in the group. Played by Jeff Goldblum, he offers him a permanent spot as part of the Hong Kong Cavaliers. And meanwhile, Clancy Brown's just manning the phones, letting everyone with the jet car people know, yeah, I know, he's running late.
Oh, man. Rawhide always manning them phones.
Clancy Brown's character's name is Rawhide.
You ever have a telethon? Rawhide's the first to volunteer.
Oh, my God.
Every Labor Day. Jerry Lewis calls up his old pal Rawhide. Buckaroo lends him out.
You know, I got out of that game a long time ago, Jerry Lewis.
Fuck muscular dystrophy.
But yes, anyway.
But if you don't know who Peter Weller is...
Oh, yes.
He was RoboCop.
Yes.
He was in the film Naked Lunch.
Yes.
I'm sure he's done other things.
He recently voiced Batman in the Dark Knight Returns animated film adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Peter Weller is awesome. I love Peter Weller.
Sure.
I'm going to say something that's maybe a bit controversial. I feel he's a bit miscast in this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Weller is a terrific actor.
Yes.
He has a very specific presence.
Yes.
I would not call him Mr. Charisma.
No. I mean, like, again, he was cast as RoboCop for a reason.
Yes.
Yes.
Because he's icy.
Yes. He's extremely...
The character of Iceman in Top Gun was based off of Peter Weller.
Exactly. No, he's extremely subdued. He's extremely sort of internal as an actor.
And, like, the performance of Buckaroo Banzai doesn't necessarily have to be big, but there needs to be this energy behind it. Like, even if Buckaroo himself is very subdued...
Yes.
He needs to have this... I feel like he needs this chaotic, playful energy somewhere.
I think they cast him because he has that sort of like square jaw look of the 1930s hero again. For Peter Weller's credit, he brings that energy at a couple of places. There are a couple of places where he goes bigger than I've ever seen Peter Weller go.
Sure.
But at the same time, I don't know. I felt like, honestly, Jeff Goldblum would have been the better choice for the part. Because Jeff Goldblum would have had that sort of quirky, like, mad genius thing going for him.
And just sort of the spaciness. And another problem is, as we're going to soon see, John Lithgow is at 11.
Yes.
He is at 11 this movie. And there's such an energy disparity between Buckaroo and Dr. Lizardo.
Yes.
That's like, I just want to watch Dr. Lizardo.
Yeah, they're trying to go... With Buckaroo Banzai, they needed someone a little bit more like Adam West. They needed someone who would have that sort of like tongue-in-cheek vibe.
Playfulness.
That playfulness, exactly. But yeah, so the supercar is just about to go, and Buckaroo gets there just in time. All that tension was completely pointless. He gets there in time, he gets in the car, and the jet car looks like a sort of Ford... Jeep that's been mixed with both the Batmobile and the Back to the Future car. They get set to test it. They mention something about this car being able to travel in between dimensions, but really, apparently, today's just a Phase 1 speed test.
Yep.
He drives off. The test is going well.
But Buckaroo calls an audible. He's like, fuck that.
Fuck that. Let's go
speed tests.
Let's go straight into Phase 2.
Let's go through dimensions.
And apparently they haven't even told most of the people there what Phase 2 is, because you hear people in the background going, what's Phase 2? What's going on? He swerves off the course.
That's Hong Kong top secret, my friend.
That's Hong Kong top secret. He swerves off the path. He goes straight towards a mountain. And again, just in effect that's very similar to the DeLorean from Back to the Future, which came out after this, by the way.
And they stole this effect and Christopher Lloyd from the set.
Yeah, both, exactly. He blasts...
Robert Zemeckis in a domino mask, just creeping onto the set. He throwing John Big Boutte over his shoulder.
The scene where John Big Boutte kidnaps the scientist from the press conference was inspired by Robert Zemeckis kidnapping Doc Brown. Absolutely.
His daring daylight kidnapping. But of character actor Christopher Lloyd.
He blasts right through the mountain and into another dimension, a big blue spirally dimension full of nightmare imagery and monsters. Kind of reminded me, maybe just because I just rewatched this, of the alternate dimension they go into in Pacific Rim, although a lot lower tech. And almost immediately after he's there, he makes it through the other side of the mountain and back to his home dimension. His car is smoking and covered in slime, and he finds a little tiny brain attached to the bottom of the undercarriage of the vehicle.
Now, I want to... This movie has an interesting 1000 Miles Weird connection.
Interesting, okay.
I don't know if all the effects, or just the makeup effects, or just what have you, were done by Berman Studios.
Okay.
As in Thomas Berman, as in the writer and director of Meet the Hollowheads.
Oh my God!
Yes.
That's awesome! Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Well, if we had a 1000 Wives of Weird Hall of Fame, he would be in it.
Absolutely.
So this is just more reason for that. The effects in this movie are, even if he just did the makeup effects, the effects in this movie are very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I love the aliens look.
Oh, I don't like the aliens
Okay,
look.
we'll talk about that a bit later.
We will get to that.
But all the little organic shit, like this little nubbin he finds on his car, some stuff we'll see later. I love that. I love this David Cronenberg shit.
Absolutely. Almost wish that there was a little bit more of it.
Sure.
But that's just because, as we discussed before, and you see it in the logo about like what I'm doing in the logo for our show, I love Lovecraft shit in movies, so always more with that.
I would have loved that, like, since the movie is playing with so many different tones and stuff, like, just this level of revolting horror would be awesome.
Yeah, just to have, like, everything is this very sort of corny, campy, sort of, like, bloodless universe, and then suddenly you go to the 8th dimension and it's just hell. Yes. Hell is here.
I also want to point out something. Sure. Again, this was 1984, which was 3 years before RoboCop, and I believe 2 years before The Fly. So
interesting.
Jeff Goldblum and Peter Weller weren't at the top of the world yet.
Not quite the top of the world, no. Peter Weller actually had a very similar question to the question I kept asking when watching the movie when he read the script.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he said, what's the tone? Will the movie be campy? Will it be a cartoon? Or will it be sort of wacky, realistic film that would catch people sideways and not be a cartoon? And I couldn't find anyone saying what the tone was supposed to be. There were several times during the movie I thought it was several different things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my biggest problem, I think, overall, is just I don't know what the movie's where it's trying to aim for.
Yeah, I believe they, skimming the Wikipedia article, it seems like they had a lot of production struggles.
They definitely did.
There was an interfering producer.
Yes.
And that could be a large part of why this does not work for us. Maybe the original vision was much different.
There is that, at a certain point, and we'll get to it, the producer stopped interfering and allowed them to do whatever they wanted for a while, and then, like, started interfering again right at the end.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure, like, how much is, it's complicated.
Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think all this stuff would be more interesting if we didn't have that opening crawl? Like, if you were just thrown into this world, it's like, okay, he's a doctor, and now he's in a jet car, and he's in a band, too, and he has this posse called the Hong Kong Cavaliers?
I think yes and no. The opening title screams to me of Kiefer Sutherland's narration in Dark City.
Oh yeah, I believe it was probably
or Harrison Ford's narration in Blade Runner. Some terrified producer being like, "What the fuck have you guys made? You have to explain this shit right off the top."
Very much the feeling at the studio.
Oh yeah, and I think that if you were to excise that entirely and just have the opening of the film, I think you have something closer to the creator's vision. That being said, this movie delights in leaving you out of the loop on things.
Yes.
And only some of that stuff is included in the title crawl. There's a bunch of other stuff that I think you would still be very confused about. One thing, though, that they do say in the opening title crawl, they say that there's a spaceship watching us from orbit. That's not revealed as a plot point until several scenes later, and I do think that the movie would be better without that because the minute you tell me there's a spaceship in orbit, I don't care about anything that's going on. I want to know about what that spaceship is.
Yes.
Because I've seen all this stuff before. I haven't seen that. But anyway, we then cut to John Lithgow doing his audition for Edgar in Men in Black.
Sugar water!
But Italian.
A sugar water!
The sugar, she is a water!
So, apparently, as I was watching the credits, I noticed that John Lithgow has a credited dialect coach.
Oh, yeah.
Which was actually just a tailor on the MGM studio that he would just, like, record.
Yeah. There's some tailor with an Italian accent. He recorded him, based his accent off of that, and then they credited this tailor as the dialect coach.
And again, John Lithgow is the best fucking part of this movie.
Oh my god.
The best way to experience this movie is just to go on YouTube and look up Buckaroo Banzai all John Lithgow scenes.
Yeah, no, I wrote the way that I put it in my notes is if there's any reason to see this movie, it is John Lithgow. He is so good.
And he's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, like his ridiculous Italian accent, his rotting teeth, his big red fright wig, like,
yes.
And he's having the time of his life too, it seems.
If Peter Weller is supposed to be our Adam West for this, John Lithgow is our Frank Gorshin. Like, he is just going fucking ham on this shit. And also, there's an element to John Lithgow. The dialogue in this movie is very strange.
It is.
It's just very strange. One of the actresses who's in the movie, plays the character Pretty Penny that we'll get to later, said that she felt like the movie was Star Wars if written by a beat poet.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and the dialogue to me never quite makes sense coming out of the mouths of any of the characters except John Lithgow, because he's got that theater training where just like you can tell like he's just studied this shit and gone over these lines until they feel exactly right coming out of his mouth.
He found a way to make it feel natural.
It's like when
that's the key.
You're watching Romeo plus Juliet and you're like, hey, none of these actors know what they're talking about. And then Pete Postlethwaite comes on screen. You're like, oh my God, this guy bleeds Shakespeare. It's that kind of thing. Also, this role was written specifically for John Lithgow.
Yes,
and
all roles
should be. And apparently, they had to fight to allow this stupid producer to let them cast John Lithgow. So, people are stupid.
But John Lithgow is playing Dr. Lizardo, who is consigned to a mental asylum.
Oh, one other thing about his performance, he said that he based his movement in the role on an old crab. So, but yes, so Dr. Lizardo?
Yes.
Dr. Lizardo is this professor. He's been locked in this insane asylum for years and years ago, as we see in a flashback. He and another scientist
who is working with Buckaroo in the present day, on this transdimensional jet car.
This was originally a project that this same scientist who's working with Buckaroo and Dr. Lizardo were working on back in the 30s, yeah. And there was sort of a mix-up, there was some sort of mistake, and Dr. Lizardo got himself stuck halfway between this other dimension and our dimension when he was finally pulled out of the hole, like Winnie the Pooh being pulled out of Rabbit's house. He had the red fright wig and was insane and freaking out and running all over the place.
He brought back something with him.
He brought back something with him inside of him.
Yes.
Again, body horror. But now he's in this insane asylum and he's hearing this news about how Buckaroo Banzai has cracked the door to the 8th dimension, and now he needs to start getting ready to escape, but not before he gives himself some good old electroshock therapy.
Yep, he needs them volts.
Needs them volts.
And it's not just John Lithgow's performance, it's all the like production design around him, because the way he shocks himself, he has this spiky little thing he puts on his tongue, like it looks wonderful. It looks so great.
It's crazy, and I don't think they ever explain why he does that. He's just crazy and he likes that,
and that's presumably something the spoiler alert aliens might like.
Sure,
they seem to be very into electricity.
Yes, that's very true. And John Lithgow is in a mental hospital, as we said, and his orderly is Jonathan Banks.
Was it Jonathan Banks in this scene, or just the security guard later?
No, it was in this scene, too.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's him in both scenes. He gets to be in 2 scenes out of this whole movie. And I have not seen Breaking Bad yet. That's another blind spot for me. But I have seen, I think it's season 5 of Community.
Yes.
When he was one of the actors on the show, and I love every second he's on screen in that show. But no time for all of this. Buckaroo Banzai and
hold on.
Okay.
As the orderly is leaving, he gives Lizardo some shit.
Yes.
And Jonathan Lithgow delivers what he considers one of his iconic lines.
Oh.
I was listening to a podcast that John Lithgow was on once. Can't remember which one it was. I think it was Doug Loves Movies.
Sure.
And he talked about how, I don't know if this was a regular thing he did or just like a one-time thing, but I guess he would or went to a high school and like did some of his iconic lines for the kids, which I would love that now.
Oh my God,
I would,
yes.
I would be fucking coming myself.
Yeah.
But I don't know that most high schoolers are like, oh my God, Broadway actor John Lithgow is going to come spout lines from The World According to Garp at us. But he delivers.
Please deliver your lines from Blowout. Tell us about the whores.
But the line that Jonathan Lithgow quoted on this podcast: "Laugh a while you can, a monkey boy."
Yeah, that is a pretty great line. Laugh a while you can, the monkey boy.
And monkey boy seems to be an insult that these aliens have for humans in general.
It's a very sort of common science fiction element of aliens coming from other worlds and then just sort of like picking on the fact that we have simian ancestors. Common sci-fi thing. Anyway, so Buckaroo Banzai and his crew are discussing the interdimensional car, but they can't get too deep into it. There's no time for science because they have a gig.
They have a gig at a nightclub that seems to have a capacity of about 20.
And there's an angry club owner there's like, I don't care if you guys are big shots, when you're here you play fucking music. And I'm like, well, what did you think they were there for, my guy? But hey,
it's the Hong Kong Cavaliers traveling Chautauqua.
But yes, they go up and they get ready, and again, having seen Streets of Fire, my expectations for this rock band were a little bit too high.
Yeah, because I don't particularly enjoy the music they play.
No, I don't like
And
it.
also,
I don't like the music in most of this movie.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. It's like Buckaroo Banzai is like Jesus in this universe. Like he is bigger than Jesus. He is, like we said, comic books, video games.
In universe, they publish Buckaroo Banzai comics and video games, and I assume like their movies and all this shit.
I'm sure.
It's a lot like the Fantastic Four back in the day.
Now this could go either way, where it could be a thing where it's like Buckaroo Banzai should be playing stadiums, or it could be like, no, Buckaroo's so cool he only plays small venues.
Right.
So I don't know, but this club seems so small. It just seems like a skimpy budget thing.
It's possible.
Which again could be a producer.
Yeah, the movie did not have a lot of... This scene would be so much funnier if they were actually in a stadium.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, no, it absolutely would, because...
Yeah, because as the scene goes on, they're playing their music. By the way, Peter Weller played all of his own instruments and sang.
Well, he mimed playing the piano.
Oh, he mimed playing the piano?
Yes.
I thought he can play the piano in real life.
The Wikipedia article said he mimed it.
Okay, never mind. But he did do his own singing. And... Buckaroo Banzai calls the concert to a halt, and he says, wait a second, is someone not having a good time?
So, someone out there is not having a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to jump back briefly.
Oh, sorry.
One of my favorite moments in the film,
yeah,
and probably one of the few parts of this sequence that I like, Buckaroo is blandly shredding his guitar, then he pulls out a tiny trumpet.
Yes, which is an instrument that Peter Weller also plays.
Yes. I like to think that Peter Weller is just like, if you're on an elevator ride with Peter Weller and it's silent for too long, he just sort of sneaks out the pocket trumpet. It's like, starts playing taps.
I like to imagine he just plays the only bit of music that I actually like from this movie, the ending bit. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But yeah, he stops the concert.
The only music Peter Weller performs is the scores from his own films.
Buckaroo Banzai. Peter Weller is like the cast of Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
He and the Hong Kong Cavaliers will get together and do a tour every once in a while. I want that to be true. It's not.
Yeah, I want to know what Perfect Tommy's up to.
He's being perfect.
Obviously.
But yeah, Banzai has realized that even though all these people are digging their sound, there's one person in the crowd who is crying, and he can't stand for that. And so he decides to, in a scene that the movie seems to think is sweet, in a moment that made my social anxiety go through the roof, he brings a spotlight out on this horribly depressed woman.
Which, again, this could be hilarious.
Yeah.
But the movie is, again, playing it like... And I'm sort of two minds, because as we're about to learn that this woman, Penny Pretty, is suicidal.
Yes.
So... I'm of two minds. Like, on one hand, leave people the fuck alone.
Right.
Like, so what? She's not happy. She's crying. Like, just leave her the fuck alone. Also, why come out to a rock concert or whatever concert if you're... Seems like an inappropriate place to kill yourself.
Well, they're definitely, like, at a nightclub, because she's just, like, at a table.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
but, so... But at the same time, like, it is sort of cool that, like... Buckaroo wants everyone to have a good time, although he's not very effective at cheering people up.
Not.
Just like, I'm going to sing a song at you.
Yeah, his solution to this is, well, he has this great line where he says, hey, 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 because people are starting to jeer.
I love this line.
To jeer at it. He's like,
Can I do it?
Go for it, yeah.
Don't be mean. We don't have to be mean. Because, remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
Yeah.
And I wish there was more Zen shit like that from Buckaroo Banzai, like more like positive affirmation shit, like I love that line, and I've actually heard that line quoted wherever you go, there you are is something that is quoted elsewhere, like out of this context.
Yeah.
But I think I first heard it as someone quoting Buckaroo Banzai, which might have sparked my interest in the film.
Sure.
It's a wonderful little Zen phrase.
Like, it's a great thing. I think that, again, I'm not a big fan of the way that this dialogue is written. I don't think it works for a majority of the film. But every once in a while, there's something like that where it's like, the movie is, again, it's going for that sort of beat poet, sort of weird, jazzy kind of thing. But there are people who can do that well, and there are people who apparently can't. And in that line is one of the moments where it kind of moves into something that Agent Cooper would say on Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Twin Peaks is an example of writing like this that works.
And I think what sells this line so well is that this is in Peter Weller's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He fucking understood what was being said.
Yes.
So he was able to deliver it with the right amount of, like, introspection and this Zen quality, and like he was able to project it, and it very much felt heartfelt and real.
No matter where you go, there you are.
And you're saying it like Grant Mazzy.
We were never making sense. But yeah.
Also, again, her name is Penny Pretty.
Yes.
And Buckaroo Banzai hilariously keeps getting it wrong. He keeps calling her Peggy.
Oh my god. Oh, that's actually a plot point.
Yes.
He's calling her Peggy because, well, I'm not going to tell you because the movie doesn't tell you for like 3 hours. Yeah. But like in an hour 45-minute movie, it takes 3 hours to tell you what he's talking about with Peggy.
But I'll bring this up now.
Yeah.
I think a huge stumbling block for this film, and one of the things that makes it not fun and not work for me, is I never get any sense of who Buckaroo Banzai is.
Yes.
Like, even vaguely as a character. Is he, like... Is he a Zen dude? Is he a goofy airhead who keeps getting this sad woman's name wrong? Is he... Sometimes it seems he survives on pure luck.
Sure.
Sometimes he fights dirty.
Yeah.
Like,
is he like a Reed Richards? Is he like a Bruce Wayne? Is he like a Sarugi? Like, what is this guy?
And if he's all of these things,
yeah,
you need to make that work somehow. There needs to be some static thing that these revolving traits can move around. Like,
yeah.
And this is a problem with every character in the film except for Lizardo. There are at least half a dozen Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Yes.
We never get much sense of who they are at all.
Exactly. Now, and this is where we come down to like the main thing about this movie that I guess I'm just going to spoil right now because we've gotten to the Peggy bit, and that's like the first kind of like real example of this. Before I say this, I just want to say that a lot of this idea that I have about the movie is not original to me. I picked it up from a YouTuber named Kyle Calgarin, who it was actually one of the people that I kind of credit with first getting me interested in weird movies and like basically like teaching me that art films were not bad; they were just different, and that was on me to accept them. So if you're listening, Kyle Calgarin, thank you. And also I'm sorry we're shitting on this movie that you love. But something that he's talked about in a YouTube video that he made about this movie, and something I really noticed in this movie is not made to be the first adventure of Buckaroo Banzai.
No.
The movie is assuming... This movie is essentially a late-era Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
Yes.
Where the concept going into the film, with the way that the script is written and the way that everything is filmed, is that there have been decades upon decades of Buckaroo Banzai stories that we are all familiar with, even though they don't exist. In the film, we are all familiar with them.
Yes.
That's why we never learn who Buckaroo Banzai is, because the movie assumes you already know.
Yeah.
That's why you don't get to know any of the Hong Kong Cavaliers, and why there are constant references to things that the audience of Buckaroo Banzai clearly already knows about. This is the sort of meta-narrative of the film, is that this is just one installment in a long line of Buckaroo Banzai adventures. And on a certain level, and this is one of those instances where he keeps calling her Peggy, we as the audience know who Peggy is, even though the real audience doesn't.
Yeah.
The audience, the meta-narrative audience, absolutely knows who Peggy is, and they're crying during the scene. They're in tears.
Gotcha.
But there are many more examples of this going forward, including the most infamous one, which we will get to. This is where it almost elevates the movie into a level of, like, art. But I feel like, since this movie was not supposed to be a one-off art film, it was supposed to be actually creating an ongoing franchise of Buckaroo Banzai movies.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that as a gag, where it's like, hey, keep referencing back to all these old Buckaroo Banzai adventures, lean into it way more.
Yeah.
Way more, because it's so subtle. It's done as if these adventures actually existed. Like, if this feels more like a sequel than it does a one-off movie.
Yeah.
But if it is a one-off movie, so you have to... The audience is not going to go with you on this. You have to spell it out for them a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely got that idea that this is one of the many adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, like, that's great in theory.
Yeah.
That's a fun experiment.
It is.
How about you let us enjoy it too?
It's a great idea for an experiment, but the filmmakers didn't want to make an experimental film. They wanted to make a series.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the issue becomes. But yeah, John Lithgow makes a call to Grover's Mill, New Jersey, which made my little 1930s radio fan heart skip a beat. Not going to say why, because it becomes a plot point later. But he calls up Grover's Mill, New Jersey to call...
Hello, is this a New Jersey?
Yes, to call
That's
up John Big Booty!
Big Booty!
And on his way out the door, escaping the asylum, he kills Jonathan Banks, just to let us know he's really the bad guy.
Yep.
And happens to pass by another inmate playing a Buckaroo Banzai arcade machine.
Yeah, that is only on the start screen.
Oh.
This person is playing their heart out. They're playing their heart out there on the high score screen.
Oh my god. But yes, Banzai and his team immediately learn about the escape of Dr. Lizardo. And as you mentioned, Dr. Lizardo gets more explanation in this movie because in the universe where this is a series, Dr. Lizardo is one of the new characters.
Yeah. We also get the first mention of Yo-Yo-Dine Industries.
Yes.
Which is a reference to the work of Thomas Pynchon.
Who's Thomas Pynchon?
Thomas Pynchon is a famous reclusive author who wrote the postmodern, impenetrable novel Gravity's Rainbow. Went through all 1,100 pages, and it's something.
I seem to remember this. You were reading it like at a rehearsal or something in a show we were in, and...
No, I read that before we met.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I seem to remember you reading a really long book and then being like, I wanted to get through it, and I'm like, how was it? And you're like, not worth it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what one that could have been.
That's all right.
But Yo-Yo-Nine, I guess, was first introduced in the novel V, which I don't have that one. I've never read it. But it is also part of The Crying of Lot 49, which I have read, and is... Thomas Pynchon writes very strange books. Very strange, very hard to understand books.
Gotcha.
Part of the plot of The Crying of Lot 49 involves Jacobean revenge plays.
Wow.
And part of the novel is some excerpts from this fake Jacobean revenge plays. It's also about the mail.
Like the post office? Like the mail? Wow.
Yeah, there's like a secret post office that ties in with the Jacobean revenge play. It's insane.
Never thought that there would be so much overlap between this author and the plot of The Stupids, but apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crying of Lot 49 is actually a very short book. It's possible we might do it for the show.
Okay.
And just spend 2 hours going like, I didn't understand this.
I don't get it. It's interesting. Banzai and his team learn of the escape of Dr. Lizardo. One of his associates, Perfect Tommy, seems to mistake Dr. Lizardo for Mr. Wizard, leading to a line that I appreciated where Reno, Nevada, one of Buckaroo Banzai's other associates, says, "This guy's a top scientist, Doomcoff." And Perfect Tommy says, "So is Mr. Wizard." Banzai's band rolls in a tour bus that's bigger on the inside.
It's a double-decker bus that seems to have very spacious rooms for everybody.
Incredibly spacious. Everyone gets their own individual room, and they still have room enough for a whole team of scientists at this big board of switchboard just doing their thing. They arrive at a police station where, oh my God, we've skipped over the end.
Cowboy Jeff Goldblum.
No, we skipped over the ending of Pretty Penny's scene.
Oh my God, yeah, we did.
She tries to kill herself, but someone knocks her hand and her gun goes off in the air.
And they mistake it for an assassination attempt on the life of world-famous surgeon, rock star, particle physicist, Buckaroo Banzai.
Yes. So they are now driving up to this prison to see Pretty Penny in the prison.
Penny Pretty.
Penny Pretty. That's right. Oh, my God. To see Penny Pretty. And outside, they meet up with Jeff Goldblum, New Jersey, who has now joined their crew and is wearing no longer his surgical outfit, but his street clothes, which are the most comically over-the-top cowboy suit I've seen in a while.
It's one of those super fancy cowboy duds. It's like,
oh my God,
a super doorman's jacket that has like buttons going diagonal on both sides. And like you have this frontispiece that just attaches.
Yeah,
the way
it's not quite Roy Rogers, but it's getting there.
It's like if someone was trying to one-up Roy Rogers. It's like if someone was like, I need to humiliate Roy Rogers with how much of a fucking cowboy, because he has like furry chaps too.
My God, he has the furriest chaps.
So the way, again, this is just from the Wikipedia article.
Yes,
the costume designer's idea was like, okay, he's the new guy. Mm-hmm. How would you dress if you were auditioning for someone named Buckaroo Banzai?
Interesting. Okay, I can see that.
Maybe put a line in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Where he's like, I thought because of the Buckaroo thing,
because he dresses that way for the rest of the movie.
Yes,
and
he does.
I'm not sure exactly. I know that this movie takes place over the course of at least 2 days, if not more than that. So he could have changed out of those clothes at any time.
Could have. Guess he feels comfortable in them.
Guess he feels comfortable in those furry chaps. But yes.
One of my notes that comes up in a while, and I have no clue what it's a reference to.
Okay.
Just says Rawhide knows what's up.
That could go for any scene Rawhide is in.
Rawhide is the voice of reason.
Rawhide is
in a movie where everyone's kind of the voice of reason.
Hashtag justice for Rawhide, man. Like Rawhide, part of it is the fact that he's played by Clancy Brown, but Rawhide is like the coolest person in this movie.
I think it is entirely because it's Clancy Brown, where it's just like...
Because he doesn't get much to do.
But for whatever reason, I'm just projecting Clancy Brown's film persona on him.
Sure, yeah.
Where it's like, Rawhide's cool.
Yeah.
Rawhide doesn't do anything, but he's cool. It's cooler than Perfect Tommy.
He's definitely cooler than Perfect Tommy.
So I did some digging, and I found out there are many Hong Kong Cavaliers who did not make the cut.
Oh, yes. In fact, in this very scene, Jeff Goldblum keeps looking for a Hong Kong Cavalier named Pecos. And they're like, oh, no, he's in Tibet.
Yeah.
Which I can only assume is another Twin Peaks crossover.
Probably.
Yeah.
So
but there are even more.
There are literally hundreds of thousands of Hong Kong
Right.
Buckaroo Banzai makes it seem like a big deal if there's an open spot.
Sure.
One of them died of old age. And just like... But a couple of them...
Yeah, you messaged me about this. I've been Googling a few. So I have a few that I found as well.
So one of my favorites is Cawhide.
Oh, Cawhide.
Which is... Technically, it's just Rawhide, but it's his Dark Avenger alter ego where he's a crow man.
Oh, my God.
And they just thought it was too dark for the film because Cawhide murders. He pecks evil's heart out.
Right.
Feasts upon their corpses. He's a carrion feeder.
There's an earlier experiment with a jet car where they went to the 7th dimension and they found Rawhide's evil crow version of himself and just let him join the crew anyway because, they had a spot open.
Another one I really enjoyed is West Texas, who only speaks in lyrics from the Mountain Goats album, All Hail West Texas.
Ahead of his time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. John Darnielle was on set, just scribbling lines, and his stepdad was there, hitting him across the face. And
the lawsuit is ongoing.
Yes. Well, that's why West Texas wasn't in, because they couldn't get the rights to Baby John's songs.
Right. Gotcha. So they still ripped Baby John off. It's not, Baby John wasn't just like copying the script down.
No.
Oh, okay.
John Darnielle wrote it.
Gotcha.
But and the character, they tried, the character just didn't work. He was just like, every time he was like, hey, what if we named our band, instead of the Hong Kong Cavaliers, what about the Killers? Or the Hospital Bombers? Or Satan's Fingers?
They're like, this is just not working out.
And another one I found was just Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand was a Hong Kong Cavalier.
A little bit. They felt that was a little bit too 80s.
Yes.
Yeah, to have Ayn Rand be part of the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Well, the ones that I found it was like a father-son duo.
Yeah,
that was on the team. There was the younger guy, New Orleans, and his father, Old Orleans.
Okay,
yeah, and they were both like Old Orleans used to be just Orleans, but then he got older, so they named him Old and then New Orleans. So they needed some way to keep them apart. And the two of them are, obviously they play with the band, and they
playing spoons and a washboard. They have a Zydeco feel that...
Oh, no, Old Orleans is like a jazz drum.
Oh,
okay. He's a jazz drummer, and he's teaching New Orleans the ropes. And they both have the sort of a very similar gimmick where they take their drumsticks into battle with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there was a whole sequence that had to be cut from this movie. They were originally in the film.
Yeah.
And they had to be cut because the actors couldn't get the drumstick choreography right. There was going to be a whole kung fu fight scene involving drumsticks.
That sounds
Had to
great.
cut the whole thing. And that was all I had.
Okay. Do you want to take a break?
And this is another place where I think that the movie, trying to start a franchise, could have taken a different take and made a much better, stronger choice. Jeff Goldblum's a new member on the crew.
We had a similar thought here then.
Yeah. Why not follow Jeff Goldblum as he's being introduced to this world?
Yes.
Then all the references to the past adventures, Jeff Goldblum can be there.
And he's our surrogate where he's also going...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that's the sort of Dr. Watson energy where it's just sort of like, excuse me, Inspector Lestrade? Do we know Inspector Lestrade? Who's that?
No, that is definitely...
I thought we weren't talking to the police. Excuse me.
That is definitely an approach I thought of, too. Like, that would be so much better because, again, Mr. Peter Weller, fantastic actor,
absolutely,
at what he does.
Yes,
not Mr. Charisma. So like it could work as more of a distant, like this mythical figure, and like I think that would work a lot better. My other idea is follow Dr. Lizardo.
Interesting. Okay.
Where it's like, and then it's like, oh no, who's going to stop this nefarious plot? Mm-hmm. Buckaroo Banzai always just one step ahead.
So you sort of like the way that a lot of episodes of Batman the Animated Series would follow the villain's story much more closely.
Yeah. And
just have Buckaroo Banzai's that Batman-esque wall that is constant. The villains are constantly coming up against.
Yeah.
In their...
And mostly, like, I probably wouldn't suggest that if anyone other than John Lithgow were at the helm, because...
So really, like, this is your sneaky way of getting more John Lithgow in your
exactly.
life. Yeah. I will say, John Lithgow, for as great as he is in this movie, criminally underutilized.
Yeah.
The scene that we just talked about a minute ago where he escapes from the asylum, that's the last we see of him until...
For a long time.
Pretty much the
Too
end.
long.
Yeah.
Granted, Christopher Lloyd and Vincent Schiavelli are going to be showing up soon.
Yes.
But they don't really do a lot.
No, they don't get to do enough either. But yes, again, we were talking about how there are many past adventures of Buckaroo Banzai that this movie references. Part of how they built that vibe was that the writer who wrote this movie and came up with the character of Buckaroo Banzai, W.D., what was his name?
No, that
was the director. Earl MacRouch. He came up with the character of Buckaroo Banzai, or Buckaroo... Bandy, originally, and wrote script after script after script.
And he also had short stories.
And stories and all of the stuff about the character. And he couldn't decide what he wanted the script for the movie to be. He eventually decided on what we have here. But in order to create this history for the character, they put together a movie Bible that included all of the previously written drafts of the script, all the previous short stories, and all of that. Some titles of previous adventures that are referenced in this movie, even though we don't know what they're actually about, include Find the Jet Car, Said the President, a Buckaroo Banzai thriller.
I did see that title. I love that title so much.
Here's my favorite one, The Strange Case of Mr. Cigars.
Oh, yeah.
Which is about a huge robot and a box of Adolf Hitler's cigars. And then
they saved Hitler's smokes.
Another one that ends up was supposed to also be the sequel of this movie, so I won't talk about it yet. And, of course, the story that eventually got turned into this one, The Lepers from Saturn. The writer of this movie, by the way, Earl MacRouch, is also the writer of the infamous biopic of John Belushi, Wired, based on the book by Bob Woodward, where Belushi is a ghost watching his loved ones react to his death while a guardian angel tells him what a piece of shit he was for being a drug addict.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. John Belushi's family, not a fan of that movie. That was just a weird fact I thought we'd include.
Yeah. Sounds like a candidate for the show.
Not a fun movie, but yeah. Banzai goes to meet with Penny Pretty in prison. Banzai's infatuated with her because she reminds him of someone. When she asks him who, he says the Queen of the Netherlands, or just someone that he knew a long time ago. Penny Pretty tells him that she was adopted, at which point he goes, "Of course!"
There's only one explanation, and I guess there really is only one explanation for what we're about to find out, that Penny Pretty is the long-lost identical twin of Buckaroo's late wife.
Presumably Peggy Pretty.
Yeah.
Or Peggy Banzai. Hey.
I actually looked up. The Buckaroo Wiki says her maiden name was Simpson.
Oh, okay. So Penny was adopted into the Pretty family.
Yes.
Gotcha. But we don't actually learn about Peggy until like way later in the movie. Up until now, we just have him going, "Of course, that's the answer." He says, "We're getting her out of here. Perfect Tommy, give her your jacket." Why? Because you're perfect. We cut to Banzai giving a press conference.
Perfect Tommy is much put upon in this movie.
He is. Perfect Tommy is if Banzai has anything close to a sidekick, it's Perfect Tommy.
Yeah.
Perfect Tommy is like is the Brad Pitt to his Frank Ocean. Like it's he's always right there by his side. When, as we all know, Rawhide is the real muscle behind the throne.
Yeah.
So Buckaroo Banzai...
Rawhide is the Shadow Empire.
Exactly. Buckaroo Banzai gives a press conference discussing how his research into other dimensions is an extension of what his parents gave their lives working on.
And his parents were killed by Zan Hanoi.
the leader of the
World Crime League.
And this was originally going to be a flashback featuring Jamie Lee Curtis actually playing his mom, but it was cut by the interfering producer who did not want there to be anything
remotely hinting at a sequel
at all. As he's discussing this and as the press conference is happening, we cut to, honestly, an incredibly cool spaceship design.
Oh, yes. I love this organic-ass Cronenberg spaceship.
Yes.
And I also enjoyed... While I would not enjoy the aliens later, for whatever reason, whenever they're on the ship like this, it works a lot better than other contexts.
I'm going to honestly disagree.
Okay.
I actually had the exact opposite reaction. I like the aliens when they're on Earth.
Okay.
When they're on the spaceship, especially these particular aliens. The aliens, we'll just spoil it right now, are called lectroids. There are two different kinds of lectroid. There are red lectroids, and there are black lectroids. Mm-hmm. The black lectroids are in the ship up in orbit right now. It's this very sort of organic ship. It looks like it was sort of like stalactite or crystal or some sort of thing. The interior of the ship looks like...
It's all fleshy.
It looks like the hell from the Coffin Joe movies, but with glow sticks in the walls instead of body parts. And the problem I have with it is... I just don't think that the masks that the aliens wear are particularly interesting to look at.
They're not. They're really not.
They're just kind of lumpy and gray.
It's not an inspired design.
Not especially. They just kind of look like someone was trying to look as close to the classic Area 51 aliens as possible, which is a take.
They feel like, aside from the very bulbous eyes,
yes,
it feels like something... that would have been like a $20 latex Halloween mask in the 90s.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is kind of the vibe. And the other thing that kind of takes away from their coolness is you get this great shot of the ship floating through space. It's all this organic. It looks almost like it's some sort of weird meteorite or something, except for lights that are blinking on it. And then you go inside, and they're all dressed in these very touristy outfits.
Yeah.
They have these big wicker hats and all this stuff, and they're wearing these Hawaiian shirts. And I get the movie is goofy. But I don't know. This felt like a joke that didn't quite work for me.
No, like most of the jokes in this film.
Unfortunately, yes.
Here's where I know it. I want to enjoy this so much more than I am. Why am I not enjoying this?
Exactly.
Also, this came out the same year as Repo Man and feels so similar, but it's missing an energy. Mm-hmm. Like any kind of energy.
Yes. Repo Man, if nothing else, Repo Man has energy.
Oh, absolutely.
And it has other stuff, but it definitely has energy.
And it also has a wide cast of characters, all of which are given screen time and allowed to develop distinct personalities. Unlike the Hong Kong Cavaliers, or literally any character aside from Lizardo.
Oh my god. From Repo Man, your favorite actor...
Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton should have been a Hong Kong Cavalier.
The grumpiest Hong Kong Cavalier.
That's just more shit I gotta do now.
He's just in the corner, chain smoking. They're like, hey, Paris, Texas. That's it.
That's his name, Paris, Texas. That's the one that he plays. Absolutely. The aliens are just these big, lumpy messes.
They look too human-like.
Yeah.
It's like, again, sort of like the typical gray, but they're brown and a bit more scrunched up and a rounder face rather than an oval face. But it's just like, give me something wild. Give me something interesting.
Yeah. Especially since most of the movie is going to be them, like, disguising themselves as humans. These aliens do a lot to disguise themselves as human beings. Wouldn't it be cooler if what they were hiding was truly horrifying or like truly alien? Even as much as the They Live aliens are human shaped, the actual design of the alien is crazy. Like it doesn't look right when you're looking at it. It's interesting to look at. Banzai Institute, again, that's the big institute that Buckaroo Banzai runs. They're talking
is that like his Trump University? Buckaroo Banzai is just like a statue with clay feet.
Buckaroo Banzai, master of the Ponzi scheme. One of his lesser-known accolades.
What if that's all Buckaroo Banzai was? It's just like, and the Hong Kong Cavaliers were just like, they got in early, so they're at like the top of the pyramid.
They're gold tier.
Yeah. That's like his thing with New Jersey that he does with everybody. He's like, hey, we have an opening on the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Hey, you want to be your own boss?
But you
want to make your own hours?
Space on the bus isn't free.
Right, yeah.
You got $10,000?
Right, yeah. $10,000, that gets you into the trunk space. $20,000 maybe will get you a seat at the desk.
See, there's been
$30,000 you get your own room.
See, there's been some shakeups. $10,000, you can only be a Blue Blazer regular. You know how things go in this economy.
Yeah.
$50,000 to be a Hong Kong Cavalier.
Oh man.
Oh, you got the $50,000? Oh, I have bad news. Bad news.
Oh man. Poker King flashbacks. Anyway,
your favorite film.
My favorite movie. But yes, so at this press conference, they're talking about how traveling to other dimensions is only possible with the use of the oscillation overthruster, which will be our
flux capacitor.
Our flux capacitor or our MacGuffin for the remainder of the movie.
Dingus.
Our dingus. Buckaroo Banzai has to leave the press conference because of a call from a president. From the president.
From a president.
Yeah.
Which one?
He literally asked, like, which one? And he said, "This is the president of the United
Buckaroo,
States."
it's Jimmy Carter. We got some trouble down on the peanut farm. Why don't you come out to Habitat for Humanity, pound some nails, bring your tiny trumpet.
Jesus. Another reference to a past adventure, Buckaroo Banzai asks if the president is still delirious.
Yeah.
And we find out later, when we finally meet the president in this universe, that he's in traction this entire
film. He's in
film.
like this crazy gyroscopic gurney where he's suspended diagonally upside down.
He told Buckaroo Banzai to get that jet car, but he didn't get it in time, apparently. Penny Pretty says to Buckaroo as he's leaving the conference, "You forgot your thruster. Why don't you hold on to it for a while? Anytime."
Seems unwise on Buckaroo's part. It seems like that really puts Penny in a lot of danger.
And it in fact does, as we learn. The call from the president is getting a lot of interference. The audience knows that the aliens are listening in to the conversation, although the Hong Kong Cavaliers presumably don't. Banzai's trying to figure it out, and the aliens zap him with electricity through the phone. That sends, as we learn way later in the movie, sends an electrochemical message into Buckaroo Banzai's brain, including a scientific formula that allows him to see through the Electroid's disguises, which he, in a trance, writes on the palm of his own hand. You have to write the formula on yourself in order for it to work. And then he suddenly not only can see them, but also knows exactly what they are, where they come from, and what's going on. None of this is communicated in the movie.
No.
We learn that this is what's happening in the scene hours later. At this point in the movie, all we see is Peter Weller fall on the ground, write on his hand obsessively, and then say, "To the conference room!" And then in the biggest choice Peter Weller has ever made in a movie, they ask him, "What's going on?" And he points at Vincent Schiavelli and Dan Hedaya, two character actors who are in everything in the 80s.
Yeah, Vincent Schiavelli, very recognizable face.
Yes.
He and Christopher Lloyd, who is also in this film, were in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest together.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So it was nice for them to have a little reunion because they were part of the little crony pack in that film.
Awesome. Dan Hedaya is the villain.
The shitty boss in Joe versus the Volcano.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love
Always happy to see Dan Hedaya.
Love Dan Hedaya.
Barely in this film.
Barely. Like, Vincent Schiavelli has more stuff to do than Dan Hedaya does.
And Christopher Lloyd gets the most of all three.
But this movie definitely went through all of the people, all the best people to play aliens in disguise.
Yes.
Though. Like, if I had to pick people, Dan Hedaya, Vincent Schiavelli,
Christopher Lloyd,
all of them would be on my list. And obviously John Lithgow. But yeah, so he points at them, and they're like, what's going on, Buck? He's like, and he points at them and says, "Evil, pure and simple from the 8th dimension. They're electroids. Grab them!" And
I sort of like this sequence.
Yeah, no, this is... I had started to sort of retreat into my own mind, as I do when I get bored, ADHD, while watching the movie. And then this was just a shot of electricity. Like the energy that just suddenly comes out, and the camera's moving in this very sort of like weird, frantic way, as frantic as a dolly shot can be. And it was wild, and I really liked adding
but still, even though I enjoyed this bit, shit still was not jiving for me. Like pieces were missing, but it's like, again, like,
you don't know what's going on, but at least something is happening finally.
And again, pick a fucking tact for this character. If Buckaroo were always this overly theatrical, that'd be a great choice. And it'd be hella fun to watch Peter Weller go outside his wheelhouse to do that.
Or if maybe he's not always like this, but like the shock of all of this information being downloaded into his brain of what a threat the Lectroids really are, activated that sense of urgency in him. Show that to us. Like communicate that to us a little bit more. From this point on, he's going to go back to being normal Peter Weller again. This is like a random moment of explosive acting from him. But then Christopher Lloyd makes his entrance as they're chasing the other two Lectroids out of the conference hall. Christopher Lloyd comes in after them and takes out his gun and points it at the professor that we mentioned earlier, Professor Hikita, who was the guy who originally was working on this, is now working with Banzai. He points the gun at him and tries to kidnap the scientist and also steal the MacGuffin.
The overthruster.
The overthruster. Reno tries to get in the way and gets
You know what I heard about Reno?
Out. What did you hear about Reno?
Oh, no. I heard about Baby. I heard Baby's in Reno with the vitamin C. Got a couple of couches, sleep on the love seat. Some keep saying I'm insane to complain about a shotgun wedding and a maggot on my sleeve.
That could be dialogue in this movie.
It could be.
I got really excited, and I shouldn't have, but I did temporarily, because Buckaroo Banzai chases the red Lectroids out of the building, jumps on... There's a hilarious moment where just a Harley-Davidson man and a big truck is just sort of like lining up Harley-Davidsons on the street for no reason.
Yeah.
And Buckaroo runs up, grabs a Harley, and is like, "You can't do that!" But he just drives off to chase after the Lectroids van.
Yeah.
And I got really excited. Oh my God, we're going to have Buckaroo Banzai on a motorcycle chasing down this van. Immediately, we just sort of cut to the van getting away.
Yeah.
And then they turn around, and it turns out Buckaroo was behind them, and they clip his motorcycle, and he drives off the road and falls into a lake. Or a pond or some shit. And is apparently unconscious there until dark.
I'm not sure where this happens, but at one point someone says, "It's Buckaroo Banzai."
I think that's when he's stealing the motorcycle. Okay. They're like, "You can't do that." It's like, "Wait, it's Buckaroo Banzai," or something like that.
I wish that was constantly happening to him, because he's the most famous man in the world.
Yeah.
I wish just like every time he stepped outside, people were like, "Holy fuck, it's Buckaroo Banzai."
Like, it should be like John Wick, only more. Like, just like every like...
Except people who aren't just like murderers.
Right.
Recognize Buckaroo Banzai.
But wouldn't it be great if, like, so we just have like Harvey Keitel for some reason is in this movie as an assassin that the Lectroids hire to take out Buckaroo Banzai, and he's just sort of like, "Okay, got him in my... Wait, did you guys send me to kill Buckaroo Banzai? My kids read his comics. I'm not doing this. You're on your own." It just like leaves.
That would be great. That would be fantastic.
For some reason, the editing in this sequence is very shoddy. I wasn't sure what was going on. But at a certain point, the Black Lectroids send out some sort of shuttle pod that gets sent to Earth with 3 Black Lectroids inside. It's suddenly nighttime. And Buckaroo Banzai's still in that pond. That's why I said he was unconscious. We don't ever see him go unconscious.
Maybe he just needs some time.
He just needs some time to hang out.
Maybe he wanted to talk to some frogs.
Just need to see what they were up to. See if they'd ever managed to completely say the word Budweiser. That's a reference.
That's a reference you made twice on this show.
Have I?
Really? Yeah.
Wow. Apparently, that's like a deep part of my psyche.
I guess.
Yeah, they're 2 hunters who see the probe. They shoot it. Then they see then they start like poking it and two of the black electroids pop out of the ship. One of them is immediately killed. Another one runs off. Oh, actually, the third one's still inside the ship communicating with the people up in the mothership. If this sounds confusing and muddled, that's because it is.
Yeah.
But Banzai finally decides that he's had enough of his own quiet time in this
Had
pond.
a good soak.
Had a good soak in the pond water. And calls up Rawhide to get an update. Rawhide tells him, look, we got the overthruster, but somebody shanghaied the professor right from the press conference. And Banzai responds with, oh, the deuce you say. So, when I say that the dialogue doesn't work, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
But I feel like Clancy Brown sells his dialogue.
Oh, yeah. No, Clancy Brown's good.
Yeah.
But most of his dialogue is exposition. So
True, and again,
he's doing a really good job at
very
delivering
practical.
exposition.
He's just...
Yeah. And Clancy Brown is someone who is just as at home doing the Highlander and Superman the Animated Series as he is doing SpongeBob. So, like, the man's got range.
Too bad Clancy Brown and John Lithgow never got scenes together. Like,
oh my god! Oh my god! If there was one other actor who could have been an alien in disguise, Clancy Brown would have killed that.
I want to make a movie with just all my favorite actors, like John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon, Mads Mikkelsen, Clancy Brown. And I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but it's probably not good.
They're doing some sort of weird, creepy shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the red electroids show up and collect one of the black electroid's body, claiming that with this company Yoyodyne that they're with, that the black electroid is actually some sort of robot that they have working for them. Buckaroo Banzai finally catches up with them and sneaks into the back of their truck, finding Professor Hikita, and transferring the formula that he's written on his hand onto Professor Hikita's forehead, so Professor Hikita can also see the electroids. Again, this scene should be so much more exciting.
But it's not.
Definitely some very good physical comedy coming from Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Where he beats up a cop without looking at him, which was...
Yeah, no, it was
one of the most fun, like, action, big air quotes scenes in the movie. I wrote down, this movie is so hard to follow, my brain doesn't want to. It's trying to do anything else. At this point, a new element of the universe is introduced that we've talked about briefly. Perfect Tommy calls for assistance from the Blue Blaze Irregulars.
Which is, okay. I think I have some notes.
Okay, sorry.
This. It's okay. They're not specific.
Sure.
They're just, one, I feel like Buckaroo Banzai is a dude who would get Me Too'd hard. I don't know why. I just get that vibe.
You will notice that none of his inner circle are women, except for Penny Pretty, a woman that he's explicitly attracted to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel
I feel that vibe. Peter Weller plays this character in a way that is very likable, and I don't want to... No,
there aren't predatory vibes. But I'm just... The character of Buckaroo Banzai,
absolutely.
If this person existed, I believe that they would be able to... I believe that they would have access to very frequent sex, and they would not be accustomed to being told no.
Right. No, I can imagine them appearing in the records of the what's his name?
The Pope.
That guy who ran that pedophile network.
Epstein.
I would imagine this guy showing up in Epstein's records a lot.
Epstein rode in the jet car a few times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, if you know what I mean.
Another thing, I feel like part of the problem with this movie, and this is obviously clearly subjective.
Yeah.
It's not lo-fi enough for me. Like, I would appreciate a more lo-fi aesthetic.
Explain lo-fi to me real quick. I think I know what you mean,
everything
but I'm not
feels
sure.
too glossy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in one of the things I really loved in Everything Everywhere All at Once is the Alpha Universe technology looks super...
Low-tech.
And like
they're literally
garage sci-fi.
They're communicating with other universes from the back of a van.
Yeah. So sort of like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would help with the energy, with the camp factor, with the fun.
And also, like, let's, again, going back to those other 1930s pulp concepts that were brought back for the 80s, if we're looking at Star Wars, what does everyone fucking talk about when it comes to Star Wars? It's the concept of the used future.
Yes.
It's the fact that it looks like these spaceships were built in someone's garage, which they were, but even in universe. And I think that absolutely could work. And yeah, everything... And they're probably, again, thinking about, like, 1930s. The idea of sci-fi at the time was a lot cleaner. It was a lot more of that sci-fi that would eventually became the 1950s.
Then go for that
atomic
retrofuturism.
punk sort of thing.
Then go for that retrofuturism.
Oh, that would have been a good idea, too.
But again, like, I still can...
Have people wearing these super reflective jumpsuits, and they have, like, these bizarre jetpacks, and they're just flying around with these bizarre ray guns.
But saying that, like, what they do in
ray
this
gun
film...
gothic.
What they do in this film could still work. Mm-hmm. It's just... These are suggestions to nobody.
Yeah.
Of, like... It's not necessary to do this, but it would increase my enjoyment. I think it would ramp up the energy. It would ramp up the fun.
Absolutely. There have been many attempts at either continuing or remaking or just rebooting this franchise. A couple of years ago, there were very serious talks about Kevin Smith doing it. He was going to do season 1 based on the movie and then season 2 against the World Crime League, at least from what I heard in the interview with him. But that apparently never materialized, and he went and did Masters of the Universe instead. But I would be down for someone to try and do something with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's good stuff. You should. Once we finish our Tron series, we'll do this next.
It's going to be the cast I said before. Clancy Brown.
Yes.
Mads Mikkelsen. Michael Shannon. John Lithgow.
Mads Mikkelsen is Perfect Tommy.
Yes.
And
John Lithgow is going to be Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, okay, great. I like that. I like that.
It's going to be like True West, switching roles.
Oh my god.
Let's have Clancy Brown play Lizardo this time.
Ooh.
And Michael Shannon can be Rawhide.
You know, Clancy Brown's big long hair that he has these days would really work, I think, for Lizardo. So I
just want to hear
that.
his Pac-Man levels of scenery chewing Italian accent.
Oh my god!
I bet he could do. Hearing him do Mr. Krabs, I bet he has a very a very Chef Boyardee Italian accent in his pocket. Chef Boyardee, actual Italian man, who started his first factory in Pennsylvania, I believe.
Really? I had
no idea.
Might have
been from Pennsylvania. I'm not sure.
I had no idea. But now I really want Clancy Brown to play Mario.
I mean,
it's me, Mario. Anybody but
they
Uday
say
Jones.
He kidnapped the princess.
Let's go. Yeah, he gives Sakita the formula and lets him take the Harley while he distracts the Lectroids. Oh,
Chef Boyardee update.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Actual Italian immigrant, and he did start his first factory. The company was founded in Milton, Pennsylvania, about 40 minutes from here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And you talk shit on Pennsylvania all the time.
I do.
I guess you can't now.
Well,
the home of Chef
me.
Boyardee.
Checkmate me.
I've seen you eat cold ravioli straight from the can like a tramp.
I mean, I'm not happy about it.
Well, yeah.
I'd much rather... anyway.
Warm food is for billionaires.
Exactly, yes. Warm food is a privilege.
Bougie as shit.
Bougie as shit.
Unless it's French fries, you can eat it cold.
But yes, Perfect Tommy calls for the assistance of the Blue Blaze Irregulars.
The Teen Brigade.
Exactly. So obviously a reference to, again, in the 1930s, every pulp hero, specifically the heroes on the radio, all had their own fan club of children that they would call on as like, oh my god, you gotta get the special decoder ring to figure out what the secret message is and solve the case, as you can see parodied in Christmas Story famously. Yeah. And also calling them the Irregulars is a reference to the original gang of street urchins from the Sherlock Holmes stories, the Baker Street Irregulars. Yes. And one of the irregulars, Scooter Lindley, gets on his shortwave radio and says he's on the case.
Yes, and here we get our 2 black characters for this film. Actually, no. John Parker's black.
That's right.
But no full black members of the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
No. I'm not sure. We were discussing, we're not sure exactly what ethnicity Reno is.
Yeah. For the most part, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, despite their name, I guess Hikita is part of the Hong Kong Cavaliers, maybe.
He doesn't get to walk with them at the end, though, now that I think about it.
Oh, shit.
So,
yeah, fairly racially homogenous, the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Which, again, the 1930s crews...
Okay, it's 1984 now.
Right, yes. No, that's entirely correct, and it is a problem. But yes... the Red Electroids are trying to get inside this probe.
Ernie Hudson is just knocking on the windows of the bus, being like, "Hey, you need a token?"
They're trying to get inside this shuttle pod. There's a black Electroid still inside, as I said. He calls up to his associates, who are in a different area of the ship, of the mothership than we saw before, which is the coolest.
Oh my god, I love this.
The coolest fucking thing.
This so much. They're in these super tall, 100% impractical chairs.
Oh my god.
That look so fucking good. And here's where we can see the fucking... Again, I don't know which effects he specifically did.
Right.
But...
You like to believe that this is our man from Meet the Hollowheads.
It's Thomas Berman.
Yeah.
Because this looks like some Meet the Hollowhead shit.
It does.
It looks so fucking good. I want more of this.
I wrote down, it looks like if the Red Room from Twin Peaks were something that they found in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Like, it's those two aesthetics together somehow. But it's an incredible set, and every time it showed up, I got excited.
Yes.
But they're in the room. They're hearing from their man on the street, and he tells them that
they go to Les Nessman.
No, I can't go back in there again. They find out that one of their number, played by Carl Lumbly, was able to escape, but the person who's still inside the ship is going to have to take one for the team, and he self-destructs the shuttle pod. But the Red Electros don't even notice, because at that point they've noticed Buckaroo Banzai is there, and they chase after him on foot.
Yep.
Before Banzai is rescued by Scooter Lindsay in a helicopter.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before that happens.
Yes.
Buckaroo Banzai kicks one of these aliens in the nuts.
Oh, that's right.
And I laughed out loud. Because it's something. It is something.
It is something. That's the closest we get to establishing his martial arts credentials.
It's also
in
like
this movie. Is
it's
him
also
kicking
like
someone in the nuts.
The definition of a cheap shot. It's
yes.
like, okay, like, is he being crafty? Is this how he always fights? Is this? I have no.
Right. You don't know if this guy is
no wide enough survey of his character to be like. Mm-hmm. What is this in the larger context of the character?
Right.
Yes, an alien got kicked in the nuts.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
But I need the deeper meaning behind this nuts kick.
What
does it mean for the character of Buckaroo Banzai that he kicked this alien in the nuts?
Is this a moment where we're supposed to be like, oh my god, he kicked him in the nuts? Banzai never kicks anyone in the nuts. This is serious.
Or just like, he'll do the dirty fighting when he needs to, or does he always fight dirty, or is it like, what is it? Also, these aliens have nuts, much like our friend Matilda.
Just much like our friend Matilda. And that was the main thing that I thought during the scene when he kicked him in the nuts. I was just like, they have nuts in the same place that we do? Also, like, they're clearly, like, supposed to be lizard adjacent. Like, by the way, these red Electroids, they look a lot like the aliens the black Electroids, except they are red and sort of puffy. And the reason why I kind of liked them on the planet better is mainly because the red Electroids only show up on the planet. And I like the red Electroids a little bit better than the black Electroids.
Okay.
If only because the kind of red that they use is very meat looking.
Yes.
And there's something their masks are vinyl, they're glistening all the time. And something about that redness with the glisteningness just gave it a very sort of wet aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which again just sort of added to that sort of Cronenbergian type of vibe that you and I were hoping for more of. But yes, Banzai is rescued by a child in a helicopter. To be fair, the helicopter is actually piloted by his father, who I guess owns
his father
furniture store, I think.
George Goober Lindsay.
That's right.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not Goober from Andy Griffith. Or the actor who played... George Lindsay is the actor who played Goober.
Oh, I see.
George, quotation marks, Goober Lindsay.
Gotcha. Also, Yo-Yo-Dine, I wrote... For some reason, I include this note here instead of when it first showed up. Yo-Yo-Dine, this movie is such a cult favorite that Yo-Yo-Dine ended up making a cameo in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh, yeah?
Deep Space Nine, for those who don't know, is the Star Trek show that takes place on a space station rather than a ship going places. And there are various businesses in the station, and in one episode you can see them passing by an outlet on the promenade for Yo-Yo-Dine Industries.
Cool, I guess.
Yo-Yo-Dine Propulsion Systems is the name. Yeah. Meanwhile, back at... This is another problem with this movie. The movie moves so quickly and never lets us sit with the impact of any given moment.
Yeah.
So that by the time you're wondering, what does kicking this alien in the nuts mean? The movie's already moved on.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't
quickly.
care about this iconic moment.
This iconic cinematic moment. So before we even have a moment to catch our breath and be like, oh, Buckaroo Banzai saved from whatever horrible fate was waiting to befall him, we already have cut back to the Hong Kong Cavaliers as they are doing research and trying to figure out who these Lectroids are and what's going on with them. At this point, they do realize what I had picked up on earlier, because again, I'm a huge 1930s nerd culture fan. Grover's Mill, New Jersey is infamously the setting of the 1938 Halloween War of the Worlds broadcast, done by Orson Welles. And much like in Doctor Who, turns out that broadcast was used to disguise the fact that aliens really did visit Earth on Halloween night.
But they hypnotized Orson Welles into saying it was all a hoax.
Right. Which
I believe doesn't jive with the actual story, because didn't they announce in the beginning that it was a hoax?
Didn't they? It was an episode.
Periodically.
It was an episode of a regularly occurring radio show that they just had, where they would do radio plays every week, and they announced. So the opening titles of the show happened. Then they transferred into the radio broadcast segment as part of the show. They had an ad break in the middle, and then they finished it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, at the very, very end, is the famous speech from Orson Welles where he says, this is just a way of putting on a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo.
They could have gotten Orson Welles for this movie. In 1984, they definitely could have.
They actually literally reference the wine commercials in this movie.
They do.
Where Jeff Goldblum's like, Orson Welles, the guy who did the broadcast. And someone said, the guy from the wine commercials? And somewhere Orson Welles' heart broke a little bit.
You think he was in the theaters watching Buckaroo Banzai?
No, he just sensed it happen.
Oh.
They find out that the day after Halloween, on November 1st in 1938, a ton of folks, all named John, applied for Social Security cards in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. And I don't understand this joke.
That they're all named John?
I get that why they're all named John, because it's a very common name.
Yeah.
That part of the joke I understand. The other part of the joke is that the last names for all of them are absurd.
Yeah.
So we've already met John Big Boutte.
John Smallberries.
There's also John Smallberries. Yaya. John Yaya. There's John Record Player. Like, it's just like, they're just sort of like looking around, and whatever objects they could find, they use as their names. And I don't get it. I don't get what they're trying to do here. Is it just that it's funny to say Smallberries?
I guess, or maybe it's like the aliens knew enough, like, to pick a innocuous name like John, but blew it by choosing ludicrous last names.
Sure.
I don't know.
It would. I almost think it would be a better joke if they went and they met someone named John Miller, and they were like, people are named after professions here, and then all of their names were just like John Tuba Player and stuff like that. That there at least would be some sort of logic behind that.
I gotcha. It didn't bother me that much.
Sure. That was something that just kept bothering me. Again, this movie moves so quickly. While they're figuring all this out, we already are seeing the red Lectroids from the night before breaking into Banzai's complex, and followed by the surviving black Lectroid, who also breaks in. Only the black Lectroid is caught. That's what you call profiling.
Mm-hmm.
The black Lectroid, his name is John Parker.
He's a Rasta man.
He's a Rasta man, again played by Carl Lumbly. And he brought them a briefcase with a hologram message from the leader of the black Lectroids.
But you have to put on one of those gel cooling sleep masks in order to view it.
Exactly. The budget, once again, rearing its ugly head. They open the briefcase.
But there is a great little... To play the thing,
yes,
they put this great little organic-looking, almost looks like some weird Cronenberg motorcycle that has to ride around on it.
That's right, yeah.
Like a record player needle. That was a great touch.
Yeah, no, I always love it in sci-fi stuff when the conceit of, like, these people are so alien that fundamental concepts that we have they went a completely different direction.
Yeah.
They never developed machinery. Instead, they grew everything that they use. Mm-hmm. Bio stuff and all this creepy weird shit. But yes, they get a message from John Emdahl, the leader of the Black Lectroids, who says that they are from Planet 10. Turns out the 8th dimension, the dimension that Buckaroo Banzai has gained access to, is basically like the Phantom Zone from Superman.
Yep. That's where they keep the red Lectroids.
And that's where they keep the red Lectroids, specifically John Lithgow's character, who is essentially their General Zod.
Yes, he was just Lord John Worfen.
Lord John Worfen, who's just this big old crazy military leader who named himself Lord and decided to to take over the world and make everyone subservient to him. And he was trapped in the 8th dimension. They apparently knew that he had escaped, that Worfen had escaped the 8th dimension back in the 30s, but were okay with him hanging out on Earth as long as he couldn't get back to Planet 10. But now
that Buckaroo Banzai has
cracked the dimensional barrier with the supercar, they're scared. And they're scared that he's going to come back and be a problem again. So if Banzai doesn't stop Worfen by sunset, they're going to shoot a laser at the Soviet Union in such a way to provoke a nuclear war with the U.S. and bring about the destruction of the Earth. Or as they say, don't make us help you destroy yourselves. A very 80s plot, if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, and I think another thing this movie could do with is a healthy dose of satire.
Yes, the movie in the third act starts to seem like it's trying to go there.
Yeah.
But it's far too late.
It is.
Yeah. And yeah, we get finally the scene where he explains to Penny that, hey, you look like Peggy, who is probably your twin sister. Again, it's very quickly brushed over because...
It's not important.
It's not important.
Who gives a shit?
And also, the audience of the movie already knows this. They remember Peggy from all the many adventures she's had.
What do you think Peggy died of? Is this a fun game to play?
I don't know. The immediate thing that jumped into my head was syphilis. I don't...
Well, yeah. Buckaroo's out there throwing his dick into everything that moves.
Exactly.
Buckaroo Banzai 8 is just his face rotting from untreated venereal diseases that for whatever reason, even though he's a doctor, he just won't get checked or treated.
God. Yeah, it's just like, no, I want people to see me this way.
I want them to know. He just becomes this cancerous mass of like pus and discharge, and like,
oh Jesus,
the Hong Kong Cavaliers have to like Lenny from Mice and Men him.
Oh my God, oh,
he's like muck. He's like the Pokemon muck. Just all discharge.
He just becomes the ending of I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a weird place for the series to go. See, I just blew my chance to helm the revival. Because now they know my blueprint.
Yeah, now that they've heard this, they're gonna know. Oh shit! Can't let Brad do it. He's got some wacky ideas. They finally discover that the Red Lectroids have infiltrated their base, and they go and they get their guns and they go hunting. Reno and New Jersey sneak around, and New Jersey sees a watermelon.
Yeah.
In their base. And he says, why is there a watermelon there? And Reno says, I'll tell you later.
And this was apparently a scene they put in to see if the troublesome producer was paying any attention at all.
And apparently he wasn't, because it's in the movie.
But at the same time, does it feel that out of place?
No, it feels honest. And again, that video that I watched from Kyle Calgren, he thinks of this scene, and I guess a lot of fans do, as being the pivotal scene in the entire film. Because it's, once again, it's that sort of, like, that thing of, like, you walk past in Asgard in the earlier Marvel films, you walk past the Infinity Gauntlet in the background, and people are just sort of like, and if you're in the know, if you're a comic book fan, you're going to see that and be like, oh shit!
Yeah.
But if you're not in the know, you're not going to know. And
exactly.
there's nothing to know here, because there are no other Buckaroo Banzai movies.
Yeah, but
in the universe of this film, in the meta-narrative, there are a whole bunch of Buckaroo Banzai heads out there who are just like, oh my god, it's the watermelon!
Oh my
it's
god!
It's the fucking watermelon! And yeah, that's, again, as we said, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not... I don't know.
It doesn't play. It doesn't play to us.
It doesn't play to us because we're not in the meta-narrative. We're out here.
We want to enjoy this film.
Yeah.
Not the scores of things that don't exist.
Exactly. So the Red Lectroids managed to grab the little brain that they got off the car.
Yeah.
We don't see them grab it. We just see John Big Booty walking around with it in his hand. So I guess they got it off camera. Professor Hikita thinks he's about to be captured, so he gets the overthruster to Penny, but at the last second, they let him go and capture Penny instead.
Oh.
So, oh well. So now they have Penny and the overthruster.
It's a real red letter day for them.
Yes. And they steal to add insult to injury, they steal that kid's helicopter and take off with it. That's how you know they're bad guys, because they steal helicopters from children.
From a black child.
From a black child. From a poor black child.
From Steve Martin. And all Steve Martin can do is just watch forlornly and pluck his banjo. Arrow through his head, as he always is.
As he always is in my heart, anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm sure he walks around the house like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he hasn't let that gag go.
My biggest complaint about Only Murders in the Building,
which you have not seen,
which I have not seen.
You're doing.
This is a bit that I'm doing. Not enough arrow through the head gags.
Oh no, absolutely
not enough.
I feel like whenever he was off screen, like just lounging in his trailer, he had it on, but he's like, no, this isn't right for the character.
It's like Milo Bloom and the producers with his little blanket. He's just like, whenever he gets off set, he's like so stressed until he just puts it on his head. He's like, oh, finally, I feel myself again. John Parker is finally introduced to the rest of the gang. He meets up with the heroes in time, just in time to tell them that it looks like Rawhide has been wounded.
Oh no.
By a throwing star spider monster thing.
I love this little alien tick thing. It's so cool.
Apparently, they are coughed up by the Red Lectroids. They're not even thrown. They cough them up and shoot them out of their mouths. And there's no cure for the poison that they emit. It gets stabbed into Rawhide's neck, and Rawhide is not long for this world.
Cut him out, ride him in.
Yes.
Cut him out, Rawhide.
Mm-hmm. We don't get an actual death scene for Rawhide.
Which confused the fuck out of me. I was like, is Rawhide dead? Is he still...
I presume he's dead because they say that there's no cure for him.
But he shows up during the end credits.
He does show up during the end credits, but so does John Walker? I keep forgetting his name. Parker. So does John Parker, and John Parker is off-world at the end.
he might have stuck around to
guess.
be part of the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Finally,
Oh,
they
man.
finally got their black member.
Their token black member.
And he's a Rasta man, so that's extra 80s points.
And he's an alien, so they have a literal magic black man now.
Yep.
But yeah, he doesn't actually get a death scene, but he does get to be cool one last time as they're all like so distraught that Rawhide is dying, and he's like, "Hey, we're still on the clock here." As he's dying, he's like, "Oh man."
Rawhide also has another alter ego that was not seen in this film.
Yeah.
Rough sex. Very, very respectful, always about consent.
Right.
But just
really into rough sex.
Just really into rough sex.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes he's giving you a back rub and his hands start to creep around your throat.
You just got to be like, "Hey, rough sex. Hey, rough sex."
Rough
He's
sex.
like, "Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, who am I in the room with right now? Is it Rawhide? Is it Cawhide? Or is it rough sex?"
Oh man. I wish rough sex had made it into
Another
the movie.
one of my favorite Hong Kong Cavaliers that we did not see in this movie.
Yeah.
Hong Kong Phooey. And it's weird. He actually
the only one who ever got a spinoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
He actually originated the Hong Kong Cavaliers, which is why they're called that.
That makes sense.
But Buckaroo Banzai sort of like led this coup. Hong Kong Phooey is Buckaroo Banzai's mentor.
Oh my god.
This karate janitor dog voiced by Scatman Crothers was the most influential man in Buckaroo Banzai's life.
Oh my god.
And he betrayed him. He betrayed his sensei.
I can see there being and it would be absolutely in keeping with the universe of this movie to have a flashback to Buckaroo Banzai learning martial arts from Scatman Crothers. We get a brief cutaway to the president, who, as we mentioned, is in this weird gyroscopic traction machine. Another reference to this previous adventure the president was involved in the past. Banzai calls up the president using 1980s Skype, which is just like a little TV tube situation.
Yeah.
And calling him up and letting him know about the black lectroids and the red lectroids, that the aliens exude bacteria that infest the brains of people and makes them see them as one of their own.
I'm going to be 100% honest.
Go for it.
Any scene with the president, I tuned out.
They're the worst.
Like, I just could not. At one point, someone's going to say, "I can barely hold on to my fudge."
Yes.
Talking about their shit.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about
later.
that in a bit, because that's, yeah.
But yeah, I just checked the fuck out during these scenes. And I watched this in pieces, so I wasn't, like, fatigued with it.
Right.
I was just like, I don't care.
No.
I don't fucking care.
This, you may have guessed just from, like, the way that we talk about how hard this movie is to follow, and the way that just the way I'm describing the plot's becoming vaguer and vaguer as time goes on.
And we're towards the end of the movie, and it's just like, hey, you know what we need? More characters.
Yeah, exactly. There are some action bits at the end here, but most of this movie is just dialogue, and it's so fucking boring. Also, just a quick question: if the aliens exude bacteria that infest people's brains, and sorry, John, what? Parker. John Parker. It will not stay in my brain. And John Parker.
Do you want me to punch you in the head?
No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
I'm good, I think.
We won't know if it works until I try.
That's true. I'm willing to risk it not working. I'll be fine. John Parker.
It's a good thing you didn't know Galileo. That's all I'm going to say.
I think that's true. But John Parker is talking through 80s Skype with the president. How is the president seeing him as a human? How is the bacteria? Does the bacteria travel through TV signals?
I don't know.
What the fuck? Anyway, I did enjoy. The one bit that I did enjoy is that after they sign off, filling the president in on the plot so far, John Parker gives the president
You remembered!
a little. Thank you. John Parker gives a little hang 10 sign.
That's what Rasta people do.
I took it as because he's from Planet 10.
Oh, so hang 10?
So hang 10 is like a solemn greeting in their universe. It's like the Vulcans with the Vulcan salute.
Yeah.
It's hang 10 for Planet 10. I thought that was cute. They're quickly contacted by John Lithgow.
Yes, he's back, finally.
He's finally back in the movie. God damn it.
Curse you, Banzai!
Curse you, Banzai! who tells them that he's still missing a circuit from the overthruster. Well, he's still missing the overthruster. Somehow, even though he captured Penny and she had the overthruster, he doesn't have the overthruster. This is a plot point that they draw a lot of attention to and is never followed up on, because at the end of the movie, they just have the overthruster back, and we don't know whatever happened to it in the meantime. Anyway, he says he's still missing the overthruster, and they're about to torture Penny with honey and red ants, thinking that she's a scientist for some reason.
Yeah.
Calling her Dr. Penny Pretty. But when Banzai says that she is not a scientist, they say, well, then she's our leverage, and you have to give yourself up and the overthruster, and then we'll let her go. And this is the scene we cut back to the president. There's a little bit in there that is trying for some political satire.
Yeah, a little bit. It's trying to.
Everyone is so subdued, and this is
like
where
water off a duck's back. Like, it just did not stick with me at all.
There's a scene, the moment you were talking about before. There's a general. There's like, I got to admit it, I'm scared. I'm barely holding my fudge right now, and I just was like, was this whole movie supposed to be some sort of satire, some sort of campy comedy, and I just never got that? I don't know.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Oh, there is one funny political joke here, but again, you wouldn't notice it if... I wouldn't have noticed if I didn't take notes. The president is considering preemptively declaring war on Russia, and so he pulls out declaration of war, in parentheses, short form, that was pretty funny. Banzai arrives in the supercar and turns himself into the bad guys. They strap him to a lie detector, which they call a shock tower, and try and force him to solve the equations that they need to build their own overthruster. He tells them that they aren't getting jack from him until they free Penny, so they start electroshocking him in the dick.
I didn't notice it was in the dick.
Yeah.
Again, even though I watched this in pieces, I just
I understand.
Did not give a shit at this point.
There were times I had to rewind the movie because I forgot to take notes.
Yeah.
Because, like,
not because you were engrossed, just because it's just...
Just because I was thinking about
it wasn't
other things.
Sticking to your brain. Yeah,
I was just thinking about anything else. This scene was apparently very difficult to film for Peter Weller in particular
because he was struck by lightning as a baby, so he couldn't. This was traumatic for him.
Thankfully, not quite that dark. No, the problem
so dark, lightning striking a baby. Someone call Wong Kar-wai. I don't know if he makes dark films. I've never seen a Wong Kar-wai film.
But no, Peter Weller couldn't stop laughing because he was in a scene with Lithgow and Lloyd.
Yeah.
And Lithgow and Lloyd would improvise off of each other as these characters.
I bet they had so much fun.
And apparently, he said, this is a quote from Weller, "I'd never laughed so hard in my life." And he just took so many takes to get through this scene because he just could not hold it together.
Regular Judd Apatow film.
Meanwhile, the tour bus of the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
They've rounded up everybody. They're going to storm the castle. I want to point out that Yo-Yo Dine's slogan is apparently "The future begins tomorrow." Isn't that great? Isn't that so fucking clever?
I did not pick up on that, but that is
you
wonderful.
You see a billboard, and I managed to catch it, and I was like, I love that. I would wear a shirt that says that.
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. That's great.
And now we get the big dud of an action finale.
Unfortunately. The tour bus makes it to the compound. The Hong Kong Cavaliers have these special suits with breathing. They're breathing in this gas that apparently has the formula in it, so they can see the electroids now. They enter into the area where the electroids sleep and are immediately discovered, and a big, again, A-Team style gunfight breaks out where barely a person ever gets hit with a bullet.
Some of the electroids get killed. Perfect Tommy marks someone with his cool shotgun.
That's cool, yeah. That's perfect.
But yeah, most of it doesn't do... It wasn't exciting. It didn't feel earned in any way.
Lithgow gives the order for Penny to be killed. Penny's been strapped up to this weird torture device.
There's also a running joke that we've alluded to. Mm-hmm. Christopher Lloyd's character is named John Big Booty.
Yes.
Everyone calls him John Big Booty.
Mm-hmm. and he gets offended by this, which I don't understand because it's a fake name. Unless it isn't a fake name, I don't know. I don't get how the Lectroids work.
But at the same time, as much as the joke never made me laugh, it is fun to do that bit with each other, which is weird. Like, it's...
This movie is so much more fun to talk about than it is to watch.
Yes.
Like, there's so many things in this movie that are quotable, like, it's like, the deuce, you say. and, like, and, of course, Lithgow. We skipped over it, but Lithgow, before Buckaroo Banzai shows up, has this whole, like... Hitler in the Triumph of the Will moment where he gets to be up there with his big microphone being like, "You are all subservient to me," and doing all this weird over-the-top performance.
Crazy Italian accent.
His crazy Italian accent. Chewing scenery harder than I've ever seen someone chew scenery. Like, god damn it. It's amazing that there's
and
any
just watching his face. Like,
oh my god.
The man, like I said, he's up to 11.
Yes.
But he has...
This one goes to 11.
The structure, like he has the support system to carry that performance. It's not that he's going big; it's that he's built something that supports the largeness.
That's a very good distinction. It's not like a good actor, but still, this is a very bad performance. Jeremy Irons in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, where he's just doing anything he wants. Somehow, when John Lithgow goes over the top, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You believe that this insane character exists.
Yeah. It's so damn good. Like I said, Google John Lithgow Buckaroo Banzai scenes.
Yeah, and you'll also get a lot of Christopher Lloyd scenes that way, and Christopher Lloyd is another high point of this movie for me.
Christopher Lloyd got my only other laugh out loud moment in this film.
Yes.
Where... It's coming up, I think. I don't think we're there, but...
Yeah, we'll get to it. But yeah, the big fight breaks out. Big Boot... Oh, I think actually this is the very next note I have. Big Booty and
Worfen start to argue about how they should do things.
All the time. Worfen gives
he pulls rank. He's like, this is what we're doing. And Christopher Lloyd, behind his back, gives him the bird. And I don't know what it is about this. It's just someone in a dumb costume... giving someone the finger made me laugh out loud.
The funniest thing in the movie, and I believe, I couldn't find this source again, but I believe that I heard somewhere that this was improvised.
I believe it.
That this was Christopher Lloyd just being like, yeah, that's what my character would fucking do in this moment.
I believe it. It's not the craziest thing to imagine being improvised, but it's still the only other laugh out loud moment for me. It just felt so good.
And I believe that this movie, by the way, is... the reason why Christopher Lloyd got
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
I've heard that.
Originally, John Lithgow was the person that they wanted to play Doc Brown.
Really? I could see that very easily.
For some reason, that fell through, and they were like, oh, man, but he was so good in Buckaroo Banzai. I guess we'll get that guy just turning slightly to the left. Just turn slightly to the left. The next alien up.
Now I'm imagining... the alternate universes where the finger moved the other way, and it was either Dan Hedaya as Doc Brown
or Vincent
Schiavelli. Just sad sack looking. the human basset hound, Vincent Schiavelli. 1.21 gigawatts of power.
When this thing gets up to 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
And Dan Hedaya would be like, "What? You're from the future?"
Well, I suppose Jane Wyman is the first lady. Oh man, I love the universe I live in. I love Christopher Lloyd's Doc Brown. I want to at least see those versions.
Again, this is what we would use the multiverse technology for, is just to watch these other movies.
Alternate versions of things.
You could have a Peter Weller Doc Brown. That would be off-putting. That would be very... Him and Marty would have...
you Back to the Future.
I would be very uncomfortable about him and Marty's relationship. Like... I feel like...
even more uncomfortable than the relationship already is.
Yeah, because Christopher Lloyd's goofy and harmless. Peter Weller has this...
intensity to him.
Where it's like... is Marty going to get sold to some Middle Eastern folks?
You would buy that he
has dealings with
international terrorists.
Yeah.
But anyway... There's a quick scene, again, talking about, very briefly, the sort of gross vibe that the aliens have. Penny's strapped up to this death trap where they have, like, this evil, insanely gross slug monster.
It's so cool, and it's so cool. It's for nothing,
barely on screen.
And Peter Weller comes in, and Jeff Goldblum's with him. He's like, "Oh, don't touch that!" And of course, Peter Weller just grabs it, and throws it away.
Exactly. There's a brief scene of Vincent Chiarelli getting the most characterization Vincent Chiarelli gets throughout the entire film. John Big Butte tells him, "We gotta go." And he says, "But Worfen said we could kill her." And he says, "Damn, Worfen, get out of there!" And they leave, and they just leave the slug thing, and almost instantly, Peter Weller comes in, knocks it away, they get her out of there. Peter Weller Buckaroo Banzai and John Parker get into a little escape pod, I guess, or a little fighter jet that's attached to the side of the ship that the aliens have been building.
Yeah, something.
It's not fully explained. They take off. They try and go into another dimension. It doesn't work because
they're using the old technology
from
1938 that failed the first time.
Worfen gets tired of John Big Butte and just kills him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of that character, I guess. We get Banzai quickly figures out how to fly the ship.
Thank God they have jumper cables, like a regular human car.
I guess so.
And here's another thing where I was like, okay, Buckaroo Banzai seems to survive mostly on luck.
Yes.
That's an aspect you could do with the character.
Sure.
Again, fucking find something.
Anything.
Something to anchor the character to.
Somebody, anybody, please. So they use the ship, which apparently this little shuttle thing is equipped with massive weaponry, and they shoot down the Red Electroid ship out of the sky.
And this happens very quickly. I looked down, I looked up, and John Lithgow was dead.
Yes. And we don't get, like... There should have been, like, you know that the scene with the Nazi in the tank going off the cliff in Indiana Jones 3? There should have been that moment where we just
should have had something.
Just scared my cat. And just, like, explosion. But no, and we don't even see him. We just see Buckaroo Banzai's not even looking.
Give me one last... A curse of you, Banzai!
You, Banzai! I'll get you back somehow!
What if all of Buckaroo Banzai's villains were Italian? Like, it was just this weird racist thing that W.D. Richter and Rauk had.
Just really had a problem with Italians. Yeah. Wow.
Buckaroo Banzai versus the Vatican.
Dan Brown's Buckaroo Banzai. This is where I took a note.
Angels and Electroids.
Even though this movie is about a rock star adventurer, they decided against having a rock score, and instead the entire movie is scored with a synthesizer.
Was it ever specified that he's a rock star? Because when that concert wasn't very rocky.
True, but they had multiple electric guitars on stage.
True,
and
but
that
electric
was sort of
guitars
the
can be
80s
used for
vibe.
Other things.
That's true. I'm not a fan of the score.
I'm not either.
In adventure movies, at least I want to be humming the score by the end of the movie.
And again, also, like...
I just rewatched Pacific Rim. I was singing that score to myself for hours afterwards.
And again, the soundtrack is so sedate. It's not even sedate. Like upbeat, like electronic music. It's not like, again, I need some energy, some fun from somewhere.
Like, for great synthesizer scores, you go John Carpenter, you go fucking The Terminator. The Terminator has a fantastic sci-fi score with just like a bunch of synthesizers. You can do it, but they just didn't in this film. There's a brief fake out that goes nowhere where it seems like Penny might be dead. And
Buckaroo Banzai forces a kiss on her unconscious corpus.
Yes.
And
brings her back to life.
There's some electricity.
Yes.
The aliens give them some extra electricity. Brings her back. Then we get probably the best part of the film.
Oh, wait. And then we get a brief cutaway to the aliens in their cockpit again, where one of the aliens says, "So what? Big deal."
Yeah.
Which is a weird note to end your movie on, I guess. And then we get, again, I saw this movie before. I didn't remember jack shit about what happened in this movie, except John Lithgow electrocuting himself And this scene...
And I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Okay.
I'm going to say the big reason you remember this scene is because it was mimicked in The Life Aquatic with their end credits.
I didn't remember it being replicated in Life Aquatic. I
really
only
don't remember that part
I
at
didn't,
the end?
I did not remember it, and I've seen Life Aquatic, and I read that in the Wikipedia article that they replicated the scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember that at all. But I remember this scene from Buckaroo Banzai. It's the one thing that I remember.
And again, here's sort of like...
In this scene, just to describe it really quick before we talk about it, we get a brief title card that says...
oh, yes. Buckaroo Banzai
soon.
will return.
Buckaroo Banzai will return in Buckaroo Banzai takes on the World Crime League.
Buckaroo Banzai against
That's
the World
it.
Crime League.
Buckaroo Banzai against the World Crime
One
League.
of the most famous never realized sequels.
Yes. And then after that, we cut to a weird music video / curtain call segment. Buckaroo Banzai and the Kung Fu Cavaliers all
Hong
walk...
Kong Cavaliers.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Kung Fu Cavaliers?
Weird. Okay, the Hong Kong Cavaliers all walk in time to music. The best song in the movie.
Best song in the movie. Still didn't love it.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the song used in Life Aquatic much more.
Did they use a different song in Life Aquatic?
Yes, I believe it was you know how they did all Portuguese covers of Bowie songs.
Yes,
I believe it was a cover of Queen Bitch.
Ah, good. But yes, they're walking and they're just in this very famous location that a lot of people have used in their movies. It was used as the place where they have their big car race in Greece.
Yeah,
it's just this. What is it? It's just this little
Sepulveda.
Like a reservoir or something in L.A.
It might be the L.A. River. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it's the L.A. River. But the point is that they're all walking in time together one way, and then they get to a wall, they all heel turn, and they walk across, and they walk past a graffitied tag that says Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, the L.A. riverbed.
The L.A. riverbed.
Sepulveda Dam.
That's right, from the Sepulveda Dam. It's been in a lot of movies. You'll recognize it immediately. This was added because that same producer said that the movie needed to end with a kiss, so they added the penny kiss, and it needed something more, but he wouldn't tell them what. So they just added the scene.
And it was great.
And it's the best part of the movie. I can't explain to you why.
It's just so...
Everything that we've described as happening before in this movie sounds so entertaining. And this
is just
sounds
people walking.
like bullshit. And yet this is the part of the movie I will carry.
Because everyone has this energy that's not present in the film. And it
really has this sort of feeling where it feels like we've had a great adventure, haven't we? And
it does.
It's so
even though I
infectious.
did enjoy it, like I still went like, oh yeah, there's Perfect Tommy, there's Reno, there's
Rawhide's here. Yeah, no, there's definitely it almost fools you into thinking you enjoyed the film.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say about Buckaroo Banzai?
Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai.
If you disagreed with us and you did like this movie, the second movie was never made, but it was published as a book.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They Quentin Tarantino'd it.
They Quentin Tarantino'd it. There are also a series of Buckaroo Banzai one-shot comics and miniseries that the original writer of this film also wrote. So these are the official continuations. Buckaroo Banzai: Return of the Screw, Supersize Those Fries, A Christmas Corral, and Of Hunan Bondage. And lastly, I just wanted to read a review that I found online a brief line from a review I found online and really vibed with.
Yeah.
Richter seems to have invented an elaborate mythology for his hero, but he never bothers to explicate it. The film gives you the mildly annoying sensation of being left out of a not very good private joke.
Yeah.
And that's reviewer David Kerr. So yeah, I guess that's my final take on Buckaroo Banzai. Anything else from you, Brad?
No. No, I'm glad I revisited this movie.
I agree.
To confirm that I still do not like it.
Right. Yes. But at least we gave it a fair shake.
We gave it a fair shake, and you know what? I appreciated some things about it that I had forgotten about. And again, just John Lithgow is fucking amazing.
Fucking
you got
amazing.
Clancy Brown there.
I will never say no to more John Lithgow or Clancy Brown,
No.
or even Peter Weller in my
Or even
life.
Christopher Lloyd.
Or even Christopher Lloyd, yeah, absolutely.
Or even Dan Hedaya.
Or Dan Hedaya or Vincent Chiarelli. I'll take
Schiavelli.
I'll take more of all of them all the time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know what I think we're going to do next?
What are we going to do next?
Just because I know we've both been having a hard mental health time. Mm-hmm. Let's do Paddington 2.
I vibe with that. I vibe with that hard.
Especially because we have something planned for episode 50, which is going to be a lot for you.
Yeah, so Paddington 2 is going to be a nice sort of like, let's
it's
take a breath before jumping off the cliff kind of
And then
moment.
you'll have episode 49, so you can decide what's going to take us into 50. Mm-hmm. But for my choice, let's do Paddington 2. Let's have a little tender fun.
I am so absolutely stoked for that. Let's do that.
All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And remember, wherever you go, there you are.
There you are. Good night.